Hi, kids, at 6:01 in the morning, almost 6:01 on this Thursday, September 18th, 2025, up here on Lake Wissota. Nice to have you here. Wait a minute. What's that doing over there? Get over there. There. Okay, that's better. Anyway, glad to have you along. We've got a busy show, of course. We'll be talking about Jimmy Kimmel being grounded by ABC, actually grounded by, the ruling regime in Washington. It wasn't over, a joke or anything. It's pure power politics. And we'll talk about that. Derrick Van Orden, he was in rare form, which was good. Viewers of a TV station in Eau Claire finally got to see the unvarnished cranky guy, not the kindly grandfather they've become accustomed to seeing. They got to see the real man. And a real man saying that anybody who criticizes Charlie Kirk is taking part in domestic terrorism and ought to be prosecuted. That's a member of Congress saying that. Really playing footsie with fascism over here. So we'll get into that. Joe Zepecki will be along. We'll talk to him about that as well. Then in our 7 o'clock hour, we've got two great guests. We've got former Racine City Council member Trevor Jung, who's running for a state Senate seat. And we've got pediatrician Dr. Kelly Snooks, who has a new video series on Up North News called Raising Wisconsin. And she talks about vaccines in her latest installment. We'll have Sean O'Malley talking about the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates because the economy is still on the precipice of stagflation. We'll talk to Chad Holmes about stories that he's following in the Wausau area and Brittany Merlot's forecast. All that and more coming up starting at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
How to care for each other.
It was a long night. Alders didn't vote until after 1 a.m, and the vote was tight. Ultimately, the measure failed by just one vote, and now Dairy Drive will be closing September 30th. And you can expect some major traffic in the Oregon and Brooklyn area tonight. About 13,000 people are expected to go see Luke Bryan at Klondike Farms in Brooklyn tonight. The show starts at 6 o'clock. The sheriff's office says if you're going, build in some extra time. If you're not going to the show, but you need to be in that area, they say you'll probably want to find a detour. The sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies will be there directing traffic. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers over the Angels. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers with a 9-2 win over the Angels. Pitcher Brandon Woodruff, with his 10th win of the season, has the freedom to decide when he's ready to play. Why? Manager Pat Murphy.
Yeah, I trust him. I trust him emphatically. What this guy has been through on the mound and the way he operates, he knows what he's doing. It's underrated for this team this year, what he's done. What's our record since Woody started with us? That's something else. And I'll tell you, the pitching coaches have done a great job with him.
NFL, the Packers in Cleveland on Sunday. Ask Packers quarterback Jordan Love why the Browns' Myles Garrett is so highly regarded.
He's one of those guys that can wreck a game for an offense. So definitely always got to know where he's at.
After Myles, what stands out on how the Browns defense performed against the Bengals and the Ravens?
Man, I think they're just a really sound defense. I think watching film, they don't do a whole lot of crazy coverages. They're pretty set in what they want to run. One of those defenses where it's like, hey, we're going to run this. You guys got to come out and find ways to stop it.
That's Jordan Love with Sports on Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
I'm meteorologist Rodney Price. Partly cloudy skies for the overnight and some patchy fog will form. Light winds and will be near 60 at sunrise. Thursday, skies will turn mostly sunny. Highs in the mid-80s. Could see a few showers around the area Thursday night. Lower 60s. It's 63 at our studios.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on a Thursday morning, September 18th, 2025. It's another beautiful morning to welcome you here, having you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're spending your mornings listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or by podcast, social media. I appreciate you getting your day going right here. And I've got a question for you. Did you ever think we'd be defending Jimmy Kimmel as part of an American crisis over the First Amendment? I mean, sure, Stephen Colbert, that makes sense. But Jimmy Kimmel, who's not a bad guy at all. It's just that he would have been third on my list of late night comics to watch. And yet here we are making clear that ABC capitulating to Donald Trump by pulling Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Well, that's just something that autocrats do and the corporations that surrender to them. And again, we have seen this in other countries where media outlets aren't necessarily part of the ruling regime, but they are so afraid of it that they will do whatever it wants, which may as well be state-run media. And again, this isn't about a joke that Jimmy Kimmel told. If you're not familiar with it, Jimmy Kimmel did say something about the person who shot and murdered Charlie Kirk last week. And made clear that the entire Trump MAGA movement was racing to conclusions about the shooter. And Jimmy Kimmel pointed that out. And the hue and cry that followed is the same hue and cry that has followed over every criticism or every factual post that's been made about Charlie Kirk. It's been weaponized by the far right. People have been fired. Shows have been canceled. Groups and cities are threatened with being defunded. That's not democracy. That's autocracy. We currently don't have an ironclad First Amendment in this country. Now, Jimmy Kimmel, that was not a First Amendment case. All right. The First Amendment protects you from government infringing on your rights. You can still face consequences for what you're going to say, but you would be less likely to face those consequences if it didn't feel like the government was going to work to infringe on your First Amendment freedoms. The kind of thing, Derrick Van Orden is doing right now. Derrick Van Orden had quite the interview with an Eau Claire TV station yesterday, and we're going to play some of that back in just a little bit. So having set that up for you, let me tell you what else is coming up. We will be talking to political strategist Joe Zepecki about the dangerous political climate the far right has brought our nation to the precipice of. We've also been brought to the precipice of stagflation, and Sean O'Malley will give us the latest update on the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates, not so much because of the pressure from Donald Trump, but because Donald Trump has taken the best economy in the world and again brought us to the point where we have inflation and soft employment in the country. Probably the worst place you want to be if you're wanting to fix the American economy. And yet here we are. We also have a faction in this country that is decidedly anti-science, anti-vaccines of all things. We'll meet with pediatrician Dr. Kelly Snooks, who has a new video series, Raising Wisconsin, on Up North News social media sites. Her latest report explains what vaccines actually do inside your body. We will hear from Senator Tammy Baldwin who was part of a hearing yesterday with the now former director of the Centers for Disease Control about the political pressure brought on her to say things that were not backed up by science and facts. And when that wasn't the case, when she wasn't willing to do that, Robert Kennedy Jr. Told her, get out, that he needs toadies there running the CDC. And Senator Tammy Baldwin was part of the questioning in yesterday's hearing. We're going to visit as well in our 7 o'clock hour with a candidate for legislature, former Racine City Council member Trevor Jung, who recently announced that he's running for a state Senate seat that's been held by a Republican for most of the past 14 years. We'll have Sharita Booker telling us very shortly here about some weekend events you can hit around Wisconsin. Chad Holmes will talk to us about stories he's following for civic media in the Wausau area. Now, if you can't stick around for the full show, have we got a deal for you? Take us along on the Civic Media app. You can play it off your phone. You can play it through Bluetooth on a wireless speaker. You can play it through Bluetooth in your car and have us wherever you're going. Also, get us on Spotify and have that show handy. You can listen on demand anytime you like at a Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's look at Brittany Merlot's state forecast for today. It is a simple one, cooler and getting wetter just in time for the weekend. For today, cloudy and spotty showers. Highs today, a big range, upper 60s up north to mid 80s down south, and then a light easterly breeze. For tonight, on and off rain and thunder. Lows tonight in the mid 50s up north, 60s south, and again, a light easterly breeze. Again, Sharita Booker will tell us about some fun events that you can hit this weekend as we come ever so close to the weekend. We're one day close. We're almost, Parker Olson, who produces the show, we're one day close. We're almost there. We're almost there. Has this week not just dragged along?
Oh, it's about to get a lot longer for me because I have a lot of stuff to do today.
See, no rest for the weary.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we are. But there's just no other. The only way through is forward, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We can, unless you're going to take a sick day or a vacation day, and you know what, those just aren't allowed with this. I got a to-do list so long.
Exactly, that's the thing. It compounds. You can't. Yeah,
I can't die because there's just all this stuff that's got to get done over here.
Do this.
You know, yeah. Who else? You know what? We can all.
That means you're irreplaceable, Pat.
I was going to say we can all be replaced. Let's stop kidding ourselves here. No, it reminds me of some advice that I've given some friends who, as we've been talking about retirement, it's time for the old age chatter part of it. And some people saying, "Oh, I could never retire. I have so much to do." And I'm like, no. There will always be somebody else to do it. I know you want to do it, but you've either left jobs in the past, or you've changed cities, or whatever the case may be. People have left jobs, even with the longest to-do list, and somebody else just comes in and does it. Yeah. So,
that's the thing. If you're not there, then they're going to have to find someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's not on you.
Yeah. So, I mean, do the best you can while you're doing it. Just don't feel like, you're tied to it for 24/7 the rest of your life. I mean, life is too short for that. If we're learning anything about the world out there, you got to go out and enjoy things for yourself now and then. With that, I'm going to put these headphones down and I'm going to go to the beach. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Oh. Get on that pontoon.
I'm heading to a pontoon. I'm heading to the airport, pal.
Back to the Caribbean now.
Yes. All right. Well, before I talk myself into doing that, let's turn over to sports. Brandon Woodruff, he looked good last night, pitched 5 solid innings. Let's see. He gave up only 2 hits and only 1 run, 9 strikeouts. He was a strikeout machine last night. It was fun to watch him.
He's Brandon Woodruff might be one of my favorite pitchers to watch, just because he doesn't just throw the ball. He pitches. He knows where to locate stuff. His sequencing is really good. I think he's a really fun watch.
He really is. And then, of course, it helps when you get some help from the offense. Sal Frelick did that with a 3-run homer. Blake Perkins tied a career high with 5 RBIs to lead the Brewers to a 9-2 win over the Los Angeles Angels on Wednesday night. The Angels, I mean, they were snake bit last night. Their starting pitcher, Jose Soriano, he was already kind of struggling anyway. And then Jake Bauers hits a line drive right off of his pitching arm.
Yeah.
It came off the bat at 107 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you're looking at that picture and you're like, you totally expect him to do the Rodney Dangerfield thing from Caddyshack. Like, oh, my arm, it's broken. And for his arm to actually like fall off, it hit his arm that hard. I can only imagine what that bruise is going to look like when he wakes up this morning.
Oh gosh, yeah. I didn't realize I hit his arm. I thought I hit him like in the hip, which
I
think would hurt more.
Well, yeah. Well, if it hit you, it could have hit you right on the point of the elbow, but thankfully, x-rays were negative, so nothing's broken, but he's going to be bruised for a little bit. So he had to come out of the game in the second inning. That made it tough for the Angels.
It feels a little rare to me that you see a pitcher or any player really not try to argue their way back into a game. And he was like, glove off, hat off. Nope, I'm done. Go to the dugout. I'm out of here. See ya.
I do see that more often now, where players know well enough, like, no, I'm not. Don't do the rub some dirt on it. This is serious, and they just go, nope, that's fine. So the series with the Angels will wrap up tonight. Again, it's 3 night games, and so Quinn Priester will start game 3. Coverage will begin at 6:05 on several Civic Media radio stations, and then after tonight's game, they head right to St. Louis. No day off. And it's not a day game today, giving them time to travel. They just head right to St. Louis tonight for a 3-game series that starts right away tomorrow. And then after those Friday, Saturday, Sunday games, they head right to San Diego for games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they finally come home for the final homestand of the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And you can win tickets to that tomorrow, because tomorrow is, Parker,
the final Free Ticket Friday.
Wow, that's just like we rehearsed it. That's awesome. Yes, Free Ticket Friday. One more time tomorrow. Your chance to get some seats at American Family Field for free. You are not going to be able to do that pretty much for the rest of this season and the postseason. So somebody's going to get free tickets to an upcoming Brewers game as part of Free Ticket Friday. If you are new to this, go get the Civic Media app. Get that on your phone. And tomorrow we will give you a keyword here and then other keywords throughout the day on different shows. And then you use the text feature on the Civic Media app and text us the keyword, and you are part of a statewide entry. One lucky winner will be pulled to get tickets to a future Brewers game. But again, you can hear the Brewers on Civic Media coming up tonight. And then we've got the Packers, who are playing this coming Sunday at Cleveland at noon. And this is one of those games when it's early in the season, when it's fall and it might be beautiful out there, where, the TV ratings could be way up there. Or if it's a gorgeous fall weekend, nothing for the TV people, because they're all listening on the radio. And we've got pregame coverage starting at 10 a.m. Sunday on stations in Richland Center, Park Falls, Racine, and Watoma. So head over to Civic Media to learn more. And of course, you got the Badger football team. They open the Big Ten part of their schedule on Saturday, hosting Maryland, 11 a.m. kickoff, 9 a.m. pregame on several stations of the Civic Media radio network.
Oh, I'm worried.
What was that?
I'm worried.
Oh, you're worried about the Badgers?
Yeah.
Well, look, they won the first 2 games of the season, and you've made the bold prediction that they're going to win 3. So all they got to do is win against Maryland this weekend, and then they can coast the rest of the way through, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it work like that? Maybe not exactly like that. All right, coming up in just a bit, we'll talk to Sharita Booker, social media manager here at Up North News, as we go through some of the big events of the weekend. We'll have today's history lesson and the unusual remarks. Well, they've become usual remarks for Congressman Derrick Van Orden. Unusual if you're big on things like, the First Amendment. From the heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Sorry, I was really waffling on whether to go with the Derrick Van Orden audio in this segment or not. It's like, that was maybe too much of a hard pivot, because I already said the serious stuff up at the top. So we'll do that. We'll do that maybe at 6:52, along with the Tammy Baldwin one. that might be just a very newsy segment because we've got interviews at 7:07 or 7:06 and 7:30. We'll do Tammy Baldwin for sure. And then maybe Derek. And if we don't get Derek there, then we'll do Derek at 7:20. I had to right away go, did I do all this with my microphone on mute? No, here I am. All right, so right into the Sharita tape for this one. I see you're the one who's muted.
I'm on mute. God. Oh, I never do that. Dang
It's
it.
Thursday, boys and girls.
Hooey. Yes, yeah, okay. I have the DVO and Tammy Baldwin tapes, all that stuff. Sharita, yeah, bumper music. I see it's 6 minutes, so you'll probably have like,
yeah,
give or take 20 seconds to say stuff.
Yep. Got her. All right. All right.
Now I'm going to turn off my microphone.
Secret show.
Secret show.
Welcome back. I'm here with Sharita Booker. Sharita, welcome. No pressure, but boy, a lot of people are going to be paying attention to you this week.
Are they now?
Yeah, because here's the thing. We'd never been to the Eau Claire Fall Festival, and we went last weekend. Sherry wanted to go, and I said, where did this idea come from? We've never gone to that before. Well, Sharita made it sound fun. I'm like, Sharita hasn't been there. She's just telling you about it. She's like, Sharita makes everything sound fun. I want to go to all the stuff she talks about. So
pressure for this week, then.
You now have a fan amongst the radio audience. I mean, I thought it would be the guy she was married to. It turns out to be you. So now, no pressure. You really got to sell this. So we're going to start with a challenge. And I want you to sell us on the Viola Horse and Colt Show as we head to Viola, southeast of Viroqua, for whatever's happening there this weekend. It's all yours, Sharita.
And so it'll be Viola's 94th annual Horse and Colt Show. And it's a family tradition that's free for everyone. And this event will feature a horse show, a ranch rodeo, a horse pull, a tractor and truck pull, arts and crafts fair, and a carnival for the kids. And there'll also be local food and live music. And admission for this event is free, like I said before. And if you want more information on and some details, you can go to wp.horseandcoltshow.com.
wp.horseandcoltshow.com. And under the live entertainment for Friday night, they've got listed high mileage after the tractor pull. And then on Saturday night, I like this one, and I'm sure this guy's never heard it before, the Tim Daniels Band. I'm sure Charlie Daniels has a little brother or something, but the Tim Daniels Band following the conclusion of the tractor pull on Saturday. So that there's a parade and everything else. You've sold me on it, Sharita. I would go. This next one, you don't have to sell me on. It involves bacon. And for it, we have to go to River Falls.
Yep. And that kicks off, the River Falls Bacon Fest kicks off tomorrow at Heritage Park and runs through Sunday. The event is free, and you'll find everything from sweet to savory bacon-inspired dishes, pig-themed contest, live music, a vendor fair, a beer garden, and family-friendly activities all weekend long. In the center of the fest is where you'll find the Bacon Central. They'll have bacon flights, and this year's flavor lineup is sweet and smoky, honey habanero, mindful ranch, and buffalo. And the weekend will wrap up with downtown car cruise from 11 to 4 p.m. on Main Street, and that will be filled with classic cars, hot rods, and custom rides. And for more information on that event, visit rfchamber.com/bacon-bash.
Again, that's the River Falls. That's where the RF comes from. rfchamber.com will get you there. And I'm sorry, a bacon flight. It's a bacon flight, people, with all those flavors that you just mentioned, which, by the way, I have to tell you about my college buddy, Kevin. When he was living in somewhere in Iowa, I want to say Ames, he helped organize a neighborhood thing where it wasn't just your regular neighborhood block party, street party thing. It was a bacon fest right there on the street, and everybody had to make some kind of a dish that involved bacon.
I love bacon, so I would love to live in that neighborhood.
How great an idea is that? So I don't believe that Kevin trademarked that, so y'all go right ahead and steal that, and then get over to River Falls for the Bacon Bash. And we're going to conclude in Cedarburg, right, where they have more than their share of festivals. And I think the Wine and Harvest one might be the granddaddy of them.
Yep, and that one's coming up this Saturday and Sunday, and it's located in its historic downtown Cedarburg. There'll be plenty of award-winning wine from Cedar Creek Winery, and the festival include food stands and food trucks, and you can shop at the marketplace filled with locally produced items like honey, cookies, candles, soaps, and more. There will also be a family fall fest located at Cedar Creek Park that includes a live mermaid, a bubble artist, a bounce house, face painting, and bumper boats. There will also be a giant pumpkin charity regatta that will take place on Sunday, where racers paddle 700-pound pumpkins across Cedar Creek to raise money for local charities. And the annual grape stomp competition, where teams of 4 race against the clock to stomp as many grapes as they can, will be taking place both Saturday and Sunday at 1 and 3 p.m. The festival is free to attend, and for more information, visit cedarburgfestivals.org.
cedarburgfestivals.org. The paddling in giant pumpkins has me a little concerned, but I'm sure they haven't lost anybody yet to that. And of course, all of that is on top of a whole bunch of Oktoberfest celebrations. Of course, there's Oktoberfest here in Chippewa Falls Friday and Saturday. Waukesha, Manitowoc, Burlington, Stevens Point, Three Lakes all have Oktoberfest. And as we mentioned before, in Elkhart Lake, they have Elktoberfest. Very nice. I really like what they did there. There's the Waukesha Apple Harvest Festival, the Brentwood Chili Cook-Off, Bonduel Founders Day, Fallarama in Wapaka, the Downtown Beloit Fall Festival, and Parker and I agreed this is our favorite one for this weekend, the Atomic Voodoo Rockabilly Meltdown in Edgerton on Saturday.
That's interesting.
That's a mouthful right there. Travelwisconsin.com will get you to all these things, especially the ones that Sharita Booker highlights for us every week at this time. Sharita, thank you as always. Have a great weekend.
You too, Pat.
All right. So getting back, Parker, to Oktoberfest, I know we can't get you up here. Have you polka danced at all? You ever do a polka or waltz?
I do not believe I have. No.
Okay. All right. Well, you could get your opportunity at any of these polka Oktoberfest things. The one in Chippewa Falls here that kicks off tomorrow. The bands there include the Rhythm Playboys, North of Dixie, the Mississippi Valley Dutchmen, Gary's Ridgeland Dutchmen, which I'm sure they're at every Oktoberfest, everywhere. The Hayes Boys Orchestra and the Bear Creek Band, all playing in Friday at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. Then on Saturday, the Mike Schneider Band, Homegrown Tomatoes, the Copper Box Band, Six Figure Sunrise, Polka Riati, and the Charlie Justman Band. All that coming up. Head over to Chippewa Falls Oktoberfest on the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. Today's history lesson is on the way, including some premieres. WKRP, for example. What year did that premiere on CBS? The answer coming up next. You're up north.
Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX. We don't talk about them a lot in Wisconsin, but if you've got sheep, a couple health-related issues you might want to watch out for. I'm PM Yankee, starting you off before the opening bell on a Thursday morning. Quick look at what's happening in agribusiness news. We'll find out what those health issues are with Todd Taylor from the Arlington sheep flock. That's up next.
From sugar beet fields to dairy facilities, producers count on an operating line of credit from Ag Country Farm Credit Services to help make their operations more profitable. With multi-year commitment options, digital tools and remote deposit, and the ability to only borrow what you need when you need it, our operating line of credit makes financing your needs easier. Visit agcountry.com/line of credit or call 800-450-9858 to learn more. Terms apply. See website for details.
Todd Taylor is the shepherd at the Arlington Ag Research Facility. He said this year there's a couple different things they're watching as far as their animals' health. One is the rising cases in what they call Cache Valley virus. It's something spread by mosquitoes, and there's no vaccine for it. The other is something called Humicus stomach worm.
We'll want to consider if there's any abortive agents that they need to vaccinate for that time of year. But truly, most of your vaccination program is going to start either later in the fall as you're nearing lambing season in December through March. The biggest one, of course, is Clostridiums or Clostridium type CD and tetanus are the three that the sheep producers probably worry about the most. This time of year, either you're in breeding season or you're getting near to breeding season, you're going to think about internal parasites. I know stomach worms, Humicus has been a big issue in the Midwest this year with the rainy season.
Todd Taylor, shepherd at the Arlington Ag Research Facility, just reminding anybody that owns sheep, keep an eye out for things like Cache Valley virus or the Humicus stomach worm. Consult with your veterinarian if you've got some issues. Markets and overnight electronic trade this morning. Yeah, they've got issues. I've got numbers next.
For far too long, seed discount offers have been too complicated. But today, the Seed Pros of Channel make our stand. No more confusion. No more long-winded radio ads. Just simple savings. 0% financing with early pay discounts. Today, we show up with an easier way to save on seed. Talk to your Channel Seed Pro to get all the details and see what you could be saving. Channel. All in. All season.
Barrel cheese on Wednesday went up 2 3/4 cents to $1.64. 40-pound block cheese was up 5 3/4 cents, $1.68.5. While double A butter gained 4 cents, $1.81 a pound this morning. October's Class 3 milk that goes into cheese is up 20 cents, $17.56. December corn's down a penny, $4.26. November soybeans down 4, $10.40. July new crop wheat up a penny at $5.67. There's your market update. I'm Pam Yankee. Farm news that impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Rodney Price. Partly cloudy skies for the overnight and some patchy fog will form. Light winds and will be near 60 at sunrise. Thursday, skies will turn mostly sunny. Highs in the mid-80s. Could see a few showers around the area Thursday night. Lower 60s. It's 63 at our studios.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Covering the news of the day and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community, because change starts with you. Get involved and tune in to the Tom Hartman program Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your local Civic Media radio station.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide.
But the senator, while insisting he was not intoxicated, could not explain his nudity.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, WKRP.
Well, the answer to today's history trivia question is 1978. It was on September 18th, 1978, that WKRP in Cincinnati, a little TV series about a radio station switching formats from easy listening to rock, made its debut on CBS. Hilarity ensues.
I had no idea what that show was about. I just knew that it was like a radio station, and that's about it. The only thing I've ever known about that show is the turkey bombing.
Of course, yes. No, there was so much. The entire premise of the show was that it was this struggling little station that was playing beautiful music was the format name at the time. We now call it elevator music. And that's, where it was supposed to be. And this new program director comes in to shake things up, lets them play rock and roll to try to get up in the ratings. And then there's all kinds of hijinks.
I see. Elevator Cap Times Idea Fest, they had excellent elevator music.
Did they now?
I got a Zommers, Dom and I can all attest. It was fantastic.
All right. Well, we got to find that out. Roger puts on Facebook, the first song that Dr. Johnny Fever played on WKRP was Queen of the Forest by Ted Nugent. And it's a great scene where, Johnny is told that he can now start spinning rock and roll records. And so he takes the needle on the classical music record and just scratches it right across there, breaks the record in half, puts on the Ted Nugent record and lets it go. It's just it is one of the better show beginnings to a series. If you ever want to establish the premise for something, that's where you go. So WKRP.
Okay. Yep. Way to establish rock.
That's exactly it. Okay, let's see. So we're doing kind of this season of TV premieres, and it was on this day in 1965 that NBC premiered a new sitcom starring Barbara Eden as a genie and Larry Hagman as an astronaut who becomes her master. The I Dream of Jeannie. Again, that premiered 60 years ago today. Let's see. I had another one here. Yeah, The Addams Family premiered on this day in 1964 on CBS. Speaking of CBS, before TV, it started as a radio network, and the radio network began on this day in 1927, heard on 18 stations originally, and then, of course, spreading across the country. The New York Times first published on this day in 1851. It was first called the New York Daily Times and then later changed its name to simply the New York Times. So back to I Dream of Jeannie, since we heard the theme there just now. Larry Hagman played an astronaut who I would assume was in the Air Force, since many of them were. And it's worth noting that the Air Force has a birthday today. On this day in 1947, the National Security Act takes effect. It was a post-war reorganization of the U.S. military that marked the beginning of the U.S. Air Force, the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Council, and the U.S. Department of Defense, which is still its official name, despite whatever branding a warmongering president would want it to be. It is still the Defense Department. The number one song this week in 1961 was written by Carole King and Jerry Goffin and sung by Bobby V.
My baby, please don't ever make her blue. Just tell her that you love her.
Again, that was 1961 that this was the number one song. Happy birthday to Frankie Avalon, who had a lot of hits back in that era. He is 85 years old today. It's a bit of a melancholy day for Cubs fans. Ryne Sandberg, who passed away in late July, he would have been 66 years old today. On a somewhat related note, the Ken Burns documentary miniseries Baseball premiered on PBS on this day in 1994 and would go on to win the Emmy for Outstanding Informational Series. Did you ever watch the Ken Burns baseball series?
No, I haven't. I'm interested.
It is. MLB Network runs it all the time in the off season.
Oh,
and obviously because it's historical, it's about baseball. It still, stands the test of time. Obviously, you can watch it today and be just as impressed as 31 years ago when it came out. Highly recommend it.
So it's like original, like old baseball, or like
it is
what's
the
going on in the 70s?
Yes, no, it is the history of the beginnings of baseball. All the way through, say the 70s or 80s. I forget where he stopped, But yeah, a very, very outstanding series. On this day in 1987 was the release of the thriller Fatal Attraction, starring Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. Pet rabbits everywhere still shudder whenever that film gets mentioned. And I don't know that I can really spoil it for you, Parker, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about.
Okay, then.
People who have seen Fatal Attraction, and I mentioned bunny rabbits, they know exactly what happens to your pet rabbit when daddy has an affair. Anyway, happy birthday to I'm just going to leave you hanging there. You got to watch it. Joanne Catherall is 63 years old today. You don't know her name, but you know the group, the Human League.
Don't you want me? Oh, I was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. That much is true.
That would be Joanne Catherall, 63 today, formerly worked as a waitress in a cocktail bar, but now is living her life on her own, either with or without you. Aisha Tyler is 55 years old today. Jason Sudeikis is 50 today. The person that you may know from Saturday Night Live, or if you were fortunate enough to watch the show, Ted Lasso. I don't know if it's just that he's that good at playing the character, or if Jason Sudeikis just wasn't that much of a household name. But I sometimes have to catch myself and go, now, wait a minute, who's the actor that played Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Jason Sudeikis from Saturday Night Live. But I mean, he just so immerses himself into that character, you know?
Every clip I have ever seen of Ted Lasso has made me go, this is genuinely a guy who has zero idea what he's doing.
Yes. And it's so fun. Great premise for the series here. On this day in 1938, the Chicago Bears beat the Green Bay Packers 2-0. At that point in 1938, it was the 5th time an NFL game had ended 2-0, but it hasn't happened since.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
what's
I love that.
There's a name for games, final scores in football games. Is it
Scorigami.
Scorigami?
Yeah.
Scorigami.
I'm a huge fan of Scorigami.
Are you really?
Oh,
Tracks all the different ways that a football game could end, and every so often a score combination comes up, and a football game has never ended in that score before.
I can't remember which team it is. I want to say it's North Texas, the college football team. In their media guide on game day, they have a chart of Scorigami for their program.
Yes.
I like it. I'm a nerd for that stuff.
I'm looking at the chart right now, and I'm trying to look for one that you wouldn't expect. Here's one, 32 to I can't see the others. 32-15. Okay. So no football game has ever ended 32-15. And so when it does, people make a big deal about it, like Scorigami. It's never happened. Man, we get excited about the little things, don't we? All right. Let's get back to the music history, back to 2010, when Katy Perry had the #1 hit. This was Katy Perry's 3rd #1 hit, again this day, 15 years ago. And finally for music, James Marsden. And I know what some of you are thinking, James Marsden singing? Yeah. I mean, before you saw him in Paradise, which is the current series he's in, where he plays a president of the United States, and before X-Men and 27 Dresses, and somewhere around the time he was doing Party of Five, he was in the movie Hairspray, playing kind of a Dick Clark type guy leading their version of American Bandstand.
Hey there, teenage Baltimore! Don't change that channel, because it's time for the Corny Collins Show. Brought to you by Ultra Clutch Hairspray. Oh, every afternoon when the clock strikes 4.
So there you go, James Marsden. He can sing.
Yeah, that's actually good.
That's from Hairspray. And Hairspray is a delightful movie. I'd never seen the play, but a really nice movie.
I've never seen it. I
Queen
should.
Latifah is in it. Zac Efron. Just a really, really nice little weekend escape movie if you see it come up on TV. On the National Day calendar, this is International Equal Pay Day. This is Locate an Old Friend Day. Although I would remind you what I just said about Fatal Attraction. So be careful which old friends you look up. Okay. This is also National Cheeseburger Day. And as a result, McDonald's has 50-cent cheeseburgers.
Oh,
but there's a catch. You got to order them through the app.
Ah,
And I like a lot of apps. I use a ton of apps.
Yeah.
I have just had the worst luck with the McDonald's app over the years, where
Oh,
an
really?
order gets lost, or you think you have to put it in a second time, and then there's 2 orders waiting there for you. And I'm not a dumb guy, you know. I can work an app. So
we can clip that.
I saw the 50-cent burgers. I'm like, hey, that's through the app. No, that's okay. I'll pay full price. Thank you. There are also National Cheeseburger Day specials at Burger King, Dairy Queen, Applebee's, Red Robin, Sonic, and I'm sure more. All right, 6:46 the time right now. In entertainment news, Park. Let me get my Harvey Levin oversized mug here. What do you got? What do you want to pitch us on today? What's today's big entertainment story?
Oh God, do you want to hear about Kanye West? Because
do I want to?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that we want to, but you know what? He's in the news right now because he has a documentary coming out tomorrow.
Okay.
Apparently, it is awful, as you may expect.
Okay.
One of the quotes reviewing it was, "It's like watching a car wreck in slow motion for 2 hours."
Ooh.
So,
okay.
as you may expect for a Kanye West. Anything.
So I'm guessing. I mean, did he take part in it? Was he like a producer of it or something?
I don't entirely know. Apparently, most of it was shot on iPhone, which I don't entirely get.
Okay.
But yeah, there's like it captures everything from like the last couple of years, everything from like his very not good politics to his apparent presidential run and just weird encounters with other celebrities. It seems like a weird thing that I don't think I want to spend my time on.
Yeah, the documentary is called In Whose Name. It was done by Nicholas Ballestero, who filmed Kanye West over 6 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
like 3,000 hours.
Shouldn't we give him like a prize for that? Just for following Kanye around? I mean, because again, look, I know there's a song or two I like. I know that I watch TMZ enough to know that he is something. He's really something. And I can take that in small doses, but through 6 years of following him for a documentary, where are we going to see this thing? Is it? Oh, it's in theaters. It says here.
Oh, I didn't even actually look at that part because, frankly, I was so out on it that I didn't want to look.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it ends either right at or certainly just before last year when he released a song Kanye did called Heil Hitler. So again, it's a complex man, and I'll bet it's a complex documentary. And if you want to pay to see it in theaters, be my guest.
There's an opportunity there for you.
Yeah. So there you go. Thanks for pitching today's entertainment story of the day. We will be talking to a candidate for state senate from the Racine area in our next hour, along with pediatrician Dr. Kelly Snooks about vaccines. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Nicest kitten. Kitten Town. Woo!
Woo! Nicely done.
Woo! So, he's gone. Never mind. Not going to get to ask that question. Here's some news.
Factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Verlo has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Verlo.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government buy-in for the people. We reported September 9th that a Utah State District Court ordered a new congressional district map to be drawn by September 25th. Shortly after, the GOP-dominated Utah legislature asked for an emergency stay, which was denied by the Utah Supreme Court on September 15th. The new fair map should be in place for the 2026 midterm. In 2018, Utah voters approved Better Boundaries Proposition 4, establishing a commission independent from the legislature charged with creating fair communities of interest-driven maps for Congress, state legislature, and school districts. Fair maps were drawn, but the legislature passed SB 200 to neutralize the commission, and the legislature drew new gerrymandered maps, actions later ruled unconstitutional. In asking for the stay, the state legislature argued 3rd District Court Judge Diana Gibson had abused the court's discretion in striking down the 2021 congressional map for not complying with Proposition 4, but then ordering a new map which only partially met Prop 4's guidelines. The Utah Supreme Court, however, found Judge Gibson had not abused her authority due to the timeline and denied the stay. For now, the timeline for fair Utah congressional maps will likely stay in place for the 2026 midterm. A full appeal by the legislature will likely be heard in the coming months. We have more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me at work when I lead by example. The Army National Guard has taught me the value of showing respect to those I come in contact with each day. My service also allows me to be there for my community in ways others can't. I help my hometown recover after nature strikes. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my country and those I care about safe from threats. I also work with a network of professionals that help me.
Tammy clip in this block and then possibly the other one?
Possibly, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Welcome back. Remember, you can sign up for our unabashedly Wisconsin news at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe in the banner up at the top of the homepage. We have a weekday version and a Sunday version as well. The Sunday version includes our question of the week, and this week's question laid out 4 of the better-known conspiracy theories that Senator Ron Johnson likes to spread. Which of them would you like to hear him stop talking about forever? And the fact that there was not an all of the above response did not sit well with a lot of people. And of course, one of them is the tremendous and gross disservice he's done to the American public during the pandemic and the conspiracies that he has been spreading. Of course, we now live in an age where a conspiracy theorist and vaccine doubter, denier is in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy Jr. And that was the focus of a hearing yesterday when senators heard from Susan Menarez, a Wisconsin native who had been head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, for barely a month before she was out after refusing to go along with Robert Kennedy Jr.'s demands that she embrace conclusions and talking points that did not have science and data to back them up. It was a sometimes testy Senate committee hearing, writes the New York Times, as Menarez talked about the ways that Kennedy had abandoned science in his ongoing dismantling of longstanding vaccine policy. Republicans, meanwhile, continued to claim that the CDC is what made the problem worse, because in those early months of the pandemic, when there was a lot of uncertainty out there, and it was noted at the time there was a lot of uncertainty out there, but apparently that lack of instant certainty helped to undermine public confidence in the CDC, though one could argue there were plenty of politicians who fueled that as well. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin was part of the panel and talked to Susan Menarez and also to Dr. Deborah Howery, the CDC's former chief medical officer, who quit in solidarity when Menarez was let go. And here is Senator Tammy Baldwin talking to Susan Menarez and then to Dr. Linda Horry.
Despite his proclamations of radical transparency, Secretary Kennedy has consistently failed to provide information to Congress as he continues to undermine public health from his role in the Trump administration. You've heard from me before, having Secretary Kennedy in charge of the health of Americans is dangerous. And what we're hearing from you today really underscores this for me. Dr. Menarez, did Secretary Kennedy ever give you instructions on how you should interact with members of Congress?
He did. I had reached out to the committee to share my concerns. Secretary Kennedy became aware of that, and he was very concerned that I had spoken to members of Congress, and he told me I was never to do it again.
Congress and the American people need to know what is happening at the CDC. And this censorship is not radical transparency, and it is unacceptable. In Wisconsin, there are currently 36 cases of measles, all in unvaccinated individuals, 22 of whom are children. Dr. Oury, you have seen firsthand in the ER what vaccine-preventable disease can do. What would an increase in vaccine-preventable diseases mean for children and families across the country?
It's going to be heartbreaking. Not only will it overwhelm our healthcare system, but children will have, some of them will be deaf. You know, we've seen congenital measles cases in the US, and I think what concerns me is these aren't harmless diseases. We just saw the case in California of a young child that died of encephalitis from years after measles. These diseases have long-term consequences, and we don't need, in the US, we have gone so far in reversing this. We don't want our children to die.
That again was audio from a Senate committee hearing yesterday. Tammy Baldwin talking to the former head of the Centers for Disease Control and also to the chief medical officer at the CDC. Now, let's be fair and provide the response from the current spokesperson for the Health and Human Services Department, who, of course, works for Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump. And give a listen to this statement and tell me which one you think is better representative of science and health and the facts. Andrew Nixon, a spokesperson for Health and Human Services, said in an email that Dr. Menarez was fired, quote, for declaring herself untrustworthy to the secretary and acting maliciously to undermine the president's agenda. Again, that was the reason Dr. Menarez was fired from heading the CDC. Untrustworthy to the secretary and acting maliciously to undermine the president's agenda. What is the president's agenda at this point? One must ask, in all earnestness. Is the president's agenda to so substantially undermine public health that we again have children dying of the measles in this country? Is it really worth it to gain the reins of power by sowing that much mistrust and making yourself appear to be above, you know, doctors, scientists, researchers? And yet you had Republicans on the committee, again, repeating their criticisms of pandemic-era guidance on vaccines and other measures, saying that it helped to foster vaccine hesitancy and distrust. No, it didn't. They did. The politicians did. The anti-science people did. There's a chasm between Americans right now, not based on party necessarily, not based on ideology, not based on urban versus rural, but on those who, for some ungodly reason, were against basic safeguards to keep people alive in a pandemic, and the rest of us who will probably never forgive them for the extra misery and deaths that they caused playing politics with a pandemic. And it continues to this day. We will talk to Dr. Kelly Snooks about vaccines in our next hour. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For real news and great conversation.
a civic media station.
ABC News.
Hey, Trevor, good morning.
Hey, Pat, how are you doing?
I am good. Yourself?
Good. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Absolutely. Let's see. It's a 21st Senate district. Tell me when were you on the Racine City Council?
I was on the Racine City Council for 2 terms, starting back in 2019.
Okay, sounds good. Let me just fix a couple things here. I'm going to bring this up here while we're in this news break. There we go. Where are you? Are you at home? You got an office?
No, well, I'm at home.
All right.
For more early morning ones.
No, that's okay.
In my dining room. But that gives me the opportunity to introduce Bo, who's
of
our puppy
course.
in the house.
Perfect. Perfect. We love pets on interviews. Let's see. And this is Parker, our producer here, and
Parker.
Over in the private chat part of the StreamYard window, he'll be putting time cues in there, counting us down to 7:20 because we have to hit the commercial right at 7:20. So I'll be wrapping you up about that point. We're in the break until 7:06. We will have our meteorologist on to talk weather for a little bit. So we'll get started somewhere in the 7:08, 7:09 area.
Cool.
So I'm going to tuck you in the waiting room till then so you can make some noise, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Great. Thanks, Pat. We'll see you.
Yep.
It was supposed to be temporary, and the city has extended the contract twice since then. But now that federal grant money has run out. The Dairy Drive encampment was set to close September 30th. There was a last-ditch effort to keep it open until the spring, and that measure was considered at Tuesday's Common Council meeting. More than 70 people registered to speak in support of extending it, including some residents of Dairy Drive.
My name is Stacy. Dairy Drive has provided me with a stable place to live. Even though it's not a 3-bedroom house, it's still my home, and it works for me. I'm able to have visitation with my son, where I can make him food, play basketball, and take him to the park. This place has shown my kid how to care for each other.
It was a long night. Alders didn't vote until after 1 a.m, and the vote was tight. Ultimately, the measure failed by just 1 vote, and now Dairy Drive will be closing September 30th. And you can expect some major traffic in the Oregon and Brooklyn area tonight. About 13,000 people are expected to go see Luke Bryan at Klondike Farms in Brooklyn tonight. The show starts at 6 o'clock. The sheriff's office says if you're going, build in some extra time. If you're not going to the show, but you need to be in that area, they say you'll probably want to find a detour. The sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies will be there directing traffic. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
Magic number is 6. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports Baseball. The Brewers one step closer to locking up the Central Division with a 9-2 win over the Angels at AmFam Field. They go for the sweep today. Blake Perkins with great play in center field. 5 runs batted in. Perkins on what it meant for him after the game.
I mean, definitely like confidence boost, being able to come through for the guys. That's always big. I mean, all these guys support me every day. It's good to have some results go my way.
College football, the Wisconsin Badgers and Maryland Terrapins this Saturday at 11 a.m. Camp Randall Stadium in Madison. The Packers, with their first road trip, face a tough Browns defense in Cleveland. Right tackle Zach Tom was out last week after suffering a bruised hip and thigh.
It's kind of hard to run. That's the main thing. I feel like moving side to side, I'm good. But anything that involves me trying to get out and open up, then I can kind of feel it a little bit. But we just got to work through it.
That's Packers offensive tackle Zach Tom with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
92.7 WMDX, Madison's real news and great conversation, and home to the Todd Allball Show, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Partly sunny, warm and muggy with a slight storm chance today and a high in the mid-80s. Better chance of storms tonight, low in the low 60s. More storms around Friday, high upper 70s. Rain chances continue into the weekend. Currently, it's 59 degrees.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio.
On our show, we share stories from Turtle Island highlighting the people and issues shaping our communities. From protecting water to treaty rights and preserving languages and traditions, we cover it all. Hear voices like Arvina Martin of Verge, Wisconsin, Dr. Stately, Robert Lilligren, and more. Because Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots Radio, weeknights at 8 on your local civic media radio station.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion.
Back in 30 seconds.
Good morning, Ms. Merlot.
Good morning.
How are ya?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How about you?
I'm good, thanks. All right, here.
10
we
seconds.
go.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wasota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It is 7:06. Nice to have you back here up north on a Thursday morning, September 18th, 2025. Parker Olson is producing this shindig down in Madison Studio A2. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot is standing by. So is Trevor Jung, a candidate for state senate in the Racine area. We'll talk about his campaign coming up in just a bit. And after 7:30, we will talk to Dr. Kelly Snooks, a pediatrician who is now doing a new video series for Up North News. You can find it on all of our social media feeds, and in her newest installment, all about what vaccines actually are and what vaccines actually do. So the doctor is in. The doctor's in your phone. You can call up these videos on the Up North News social media pages any old time. And again, we'll talk to her at 7:35. You can also sign up for our daily newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the top banner. But there's somebody else that's in the newsletter business, and that would be Civic Media. They have a new daily newsletter filled with links to show highlights and more. And theirs is on Substack. So if you go to Substack, I'm sure you can search for Civic Media Today, or just put in this address, civicmediatoday.substack.com, and get signed up for their newsletter as well. Let's bring in meteorologist Brittany Merlot now to talk about a somewhat rainy morning, depending on where you are. Brittany, looking at the radar here, it's like all these little splotches around Shawano-Tigerton, around Crandon, around Phillips, somewhere down there near Prairie du Chien. So, I mean, it's not certain at all whether you're going to get rain or not at this point this morning, right?
No, it's really not. I got to be transparent with you. This weekend and the rain and who's going to get it and how much is kind of up on the air at the moment because we've got just a really big complex system moving through. So it's really hard to forecast. So what we're looking at this morning is it's about 60 degrees all throughout the state, low to mid upper 60s out there. Spotty showers mainly north this morning as a front is draped across, but that is going to be dropping south through the state today. And then we've also got a low pressure system itself inching closer and closer, expected to move in on Saturday and Sunday, potentially bringing some heavy rainfall to places. So a wet next few days ahead. Just make sure you have that umbrella on standby, or maybe toss the raincoat in the back seat, because you never know when it's going to happen over the next few days. Right now, we are looking at more clouds north. Again, spotty sunshine further south and by Lake Michigan today. Highs will hit about 70 degrees far north, and still hanging on to some heat south in the mid-80s. And we are looking at more storms sparking up this evening, probably after 5 o'clock or so. Those are going to be widely scattered and then become more numerous as we go through the overnight. I do think it's going to target more north and central in the state before it starts to move south later on into the weekend. So tomorrow it'll be mostly cloudy. It'll become breezy as well. Highs still hit 70 up north, 80 down south, and more showers and storms into the afternoon and night. And then it really ramps up, like I said, into the weekend. Highs will drop to about 65 north and stay at about 80 south for the weekend.
So another way to put it is thoughts and prayers to Jeep owners everywhere who have to keep the top up, have to keep the doors on. I suppose for campers and everybody else too, but mostly for Jeep owners.
Mostly for Jeep. I know.
Brittany and I, we want to
Legislate yourself out, guys.
Yep, we want the open air driving. It's just going to have to wait. Things are a little too spotty. Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
All right. Hey, let's turn right into the 2026 campaign because it's been a busy week. We had two different candidates for governor announce. We had State Representative Francesca Hong here on the program yesterday. State Senator Kelda Roys announced her candidacy on Monday, and she will be here on our show next Monday morning to talk more about her run for governor. We had Corinne Hendrickson on yesterday, breaking the news officially that she's running for state senate over in Southwest Wisconsin. And now we have a state senate candidate in Southeast Wisconsin to introduce to you. His name is Trevor Jung. He is a former member of the Racine City Council and is running for the seat currently held by Republican Van Orden. Trevor Jung, how are you? Good morning.
Pat, I feel good. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, it's nice to have you here as well, running in the Racine area 21st Senate District. And so let's talk a bit about your own story getting to this point, and then we'll talk about the race itself. But and for folks on the radio, his last name is spelled Jung, and you can learn more at trevorjung.com. Again, trevorjung.com, and learn about his state Senate campaign. But tell us first a bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'll start at the beginning. So I was actually born halfway across the world, and I was adopted from an orphanage in Russia when I was 2. And so my dad, who's a 4th generation Racinian and small business owner, raised me and made a life in Racine. And as a product of the public schools and my neighborhood, I grew up with this real sense of gratitude. Wow, life could have been a whole lot different. My dad made a different choice. And so being so grateful for my family's love and also so grateful for my community, I grew up with a sense of wanting to give back. So went off to university to study urban studies and urban planning because I thought, what can I do for my hometown? These are local, issues that we can address. There's a lot of potential where I'm from. And so I came back after university and ran for city council. So served 2 terms on the city council, elected twice, and then was hired on to the city to be the transit director because a passion of mine is transportation, making sure people can get to where they need to go, doctor's appointments, work, school, because mobility really equals freedom, making sure that people can be self-reliant and support themselves and their families. So we've done a lot of really exciting things in Racine, but I've also seen how the state, instead of being an ally in good work and making sure people can support themselves and have that independence, has been an adversary in gutting shared revenue, which is state support for local government, going after public education, making it harder for urban and rural school districts to be able to get the resources that their students need to be able to have the skills to grow up and contribute. And so what's inspired me is that I want to see Southeast Wisconsin be a real destination where people who are skilled can make a life here, and then people who are raised here and have quality education can stay.
Talking to Trevor Jung, a candidate for state senate in the Racine area, and it's very interesting that you mentioned the transportation issues, because while Van Orden is the current senator for that area, the previous senator, John Lehman, I served with him, years ago. And one of the things that John Lehman and I and other legislators were working on were these regional transit authorities in ways to enhance regional transportation, to make the different modes more in sync, trains and buses and everything, rather than just trying to, pave our way to less traffic, which is never going to be the full answer. So all these years later, with former Governor Scott Walker killing the train system, and Republicans still just going full in on cars and nothing but cars. It's interesting that you're still tapping into a public sentiment that says we need a more comprehensive transit solution.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're, I remember that there was a political slogan that said open for business. And if you're open for business, you need to invest in multimodal transportation, because if you want to attract the next generation of skill, which then brings about major employers to say that they want to locate in your community, that's going to take more than just one type of transportation option. I mean, this is about options, whether it's public transportation, whether it's passenger rail, whether it's, in your own vehicle. We need to make sure that all of these systems work, because that's what makes the region most competitive. I'll tell you a story. So we're right between Milwaukee and Chicago. That's the third largest economic region in the United States. That's the 10th largest economic region in the world. Yet the city where I hail from, Racine, struggles with stubborn poverty and unemployment. And that's because we're the largest city furthest away from an interstate highway. And so for us, even though we're in the heart of this economic region, we need to do a better job connecting our residents and folks who live in District 21 to opportunity within the corridor. And so, that's a all hands on deck moment for us to get the answer right so that we grow Southeast Wisconsin.
It's been clear from the remarks made by Van Wongard, who has not yet officially stated if he's going to run for another term or not. But I mean, it is the usual playbook. You are a Madison, California liberal, raising taxes, boys and girls locker rooms, more San Francisco than Milwaukee. I'm not seeing anything original here. So I'm guessing you're probably prepared for all of these talking points and more that are going to come up during the campaign.
Yeah, I imagine that statement was crafted well before anybody announced they were running for this seat. So I've never lived in Madison. I've never lived in San Francisco. I've always lived in Southeast Wisconsin, whether it was going to UW Milwaukee for my undergrad or always, living in Racine. And so I think that this campaign is going to be a lot different in terms of tone. If they're going to take the tact that insults and, following national partisan narratives is the way that they're going to address issues. What we're going to do is talk about issues like affordability, good paying jobs, making sure that those who are the most vulnerable have the services that they deserve, making sure that, again, local governments have the resources that they need. That's a huge element of public safety. Our police and fire departments are all municipal employees. So we have to make sure that we're providing safe, thriving communities. And that's what our campaign is going to be focused on. So that will be the big difference.
And of course, now Wisconsin has fairer maps instead of the gerrymandering that essentially drove John Lehman out of that seat. So the 21st district now is some of the north side of Racine, Caledonia, Raymond, parts of southern Milwaukee County, including Greenfield, Franklin, and Hales Corners. So talk to me about the winnability of that district for a Democratic candidate like you.
Thank you, Pat. I think we can win this thing. We're going to work hard. We're going to earn every vote. It is an ideal district for a healthy democracy in that it's a 50-50 district. So you've got to have the better ideas. You've got to communicate that boldly and connect with people. And so we're feeling really good about this campaign. Governor Evers won the district. Senator Baldwin won the district. All of the judicial candidates in the last several cycles have won overwhelmingly in this district. President Biden won this district. Vice President Harris won this district. So we feel really good about this. It's always going to be tight, and you're going to have to work hard. But I think that the wind is at our backs, and we're going to have a positive campaign focused on the issues that people care about.
And then finally, of course, we've got to talk about the how did Van Wongard put it? I will not make my opponent's youthfulness and inexperience an issue in this race. This actually sounds more like a passing the torch moment. I mean, in terms of folks of your generation being willing to step up and not just have the apathy that, say, my generation had at your age.
Yeah, no, that statement even echoed, I think, Ronald Reagan talking about Walter Mondale. And so if we're talking about a different generation, we're definitely deciding on a new way. So the old way hasn't worked. Austerity, defunding our public services, defunding public schools, a race to the bottom so that we fight for scraps outside of Madison. That has not worked. Wisconsin is the third most left, or the bottom third of states where people are leaving. And that's not right, because we have beautiful natural amenities and we've got great communities. And so a better vision means a winning campaign.
That's right. All right. To learn more about Trevor Jung, TrevorJung.com, and over at Facebook, look for Trevor Jung for State Senate. Trevor, great to meet you. Safe travels. Thanks for stopping in and telling us a bit more about your campaign.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it.
All right. We appreciate you stepping up and running like that and for visiting with us today. Dr. Kelly Snooks is still coming up. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. We're in a break there, Trevor. We're all good. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Pat. No, I really appreciate the opportunity. This was fun.
Absolutely. Keep in touch. Let us know what you're up to, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thanks a bunch.
All right. See ya.
Yep.
All right. So we got the Derrick Van Orden tape coming up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke.
Who are you looking for over there?
Oh, I clicked the wrong link.
Sorry, wrong number.
Yeah, bye.
Finally, there was a first one. I love it. See ya.
Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding.
I'm surprised it took till now, till happened. 5 months of doing these local cut-ins, and somebody finally went to the wrong studio.
She did it yesterday too, but she did it again.
Why is this happening?
What is this? What are you
I just
doing
love
over
you
here?
guys. I can't help it.
I know. You one more time, and we're leaving you in here. All right. Good luck.
Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs.
John and Gordy are like, oh no, is she not coming?
Increased bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Is your computer so slow you can hardly use it? Does it have blue screens, malware, viruses, reboots, hardware crashes? Sound familiar? Computers will have problems, and when they do, you need the computer experts at Madison Computer Works. Every day, we help home users and businesses keep their computers and networks running smoothly. For solutions to your computer problems, call the pros at 231-8000, and we'll turn this.
The Milwaukee Brewers were winners yesterday over the Los Angeles Angels. 9-2 was the final. Brandon Woodruff looked good, pitched 5 innings, gave up only 2 hits and 1 run, 9 strikeouts. Sal Frelick hit a 3-run homer. Blake Perkins had a career-high 5 RBIs. And the two teams will face off one more time. The third and final game of the series is this evening at American Family Field, 6:05. The pregame coverage begins on several Civic Media radio stations. Well, I've made it this long, but we couldn't resist or stay away from the trouble. I mean, the seriously constitutional trouble that is Congressman Derrick Van Orden. And I really have to tip my cap to my old colleagues at WEAU Channel 13 in Eau Claire, because I have picked on them. I have picked on channels 18 and 19 in Eau Claire and La Crosse. I have picked on WKBT Channel 8 for their coverage of Derrick Van Orden, which has been over the past 2+ years pretty soft when it comes to just covering, when he shows up on a farm and tours the farm and gets to talk about how, I'm just here fighting for the farmers, when there's nothing in his record that indicates that. And there's been very little said about his belligerence and frankly, conduct unbecoming a congressman. But he has definitely crossed a line. And I'm very happy that the folks at Channel 13 took note of that and reached out to the congressman to talk about all of the threats that he's been making on social media and celebrating the times that people have been fired and threatening to defund places including cities like Eau Claire in his district, because he does not like how people have expressed themselves over the Charlie Kirk murder, which, by the way, they have a right to do, unless you're Derrick Van Orden, who has taken a U.S. law, a federal law about domestic terrorism, and he now views it through the prism of saying anything critical about Charlie Kirk, or frankly, Republicans or the president, equates with domestic terrorism. You don't believe me? Give a listen to this bit of an excerpt from the WEAU 13 News report, talking to Derrick Van Orden and trying to start by asking him about all these posts from people who were expressing opinions, but that in and of itself is not threatening language. That is not domestic terrorism. But listen to how condescending Derrick Van Orden gets with the reporter about that.
We asked the congressman about these posts, saying they don't seem to be calling for violence. Here's what he said.
I'm going to say this one more time. If you look up the U.S. code and read it, it is crystal clear that what they are saying falls under this U.S. statute. So it's a little frustrating when I have clearly intelligent people like yourself who can read that you don't do your homework before you conduct this interview.
That was a congressman saying that. Now, I'm not surprised, but I hope a few people are, that have finally heard that this is how this guy actually talks. This is how this guy actually acts. Now, let me take care of the personal part first, the jackassery that is Derrick Van Orden, when he says, clearly intelligent people like yourself who you can read, but you don't do your homework. I mean, apart from that being a jerk move, the premise on which he bases those insults is completely flawed. And of course, note how he can't defend it. He just says, well, if you read the code, it is crystal clear that what they're saying falls under this statute. And the reporters ask him again and again to connect the dots. What is it about this language in this statute that indicates that this is somehow against the law, that this is somehow threatening behavior, that this is somehow providing resources for terrorist acts rather than a mere expression of opinion? And he can't do it. He can't do it. He's asked repeatedly. And if you go to another clip of the interview where Bob Gallagher is trying to get him to clarify his statement, he just talks over Bob. Again, this is part of the Ron Johnson, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance school, is you just talk over the person so much that they finally give up trying to ask the question. But they don't answer the question. They know the question that's being asked of them. Prove that this is somehow actual threatening behavior, much less domestic terrorism. And they can't do it. But they've got power right now, and they're using it. Again, when Derrick Van Orden uses social media to insult and belittle people, well, that just makes him a jerk. But he's a member of Congress. He's part of the government. The First Amendment says the government shall not infringe on freedom of speech. But that's what he, as part of the government, wants to do. And he does not like being called out for it. But he's got the power. And it's only it's a sense of power that's only going to grow. It's an ego that's only going to grow. It's condescension that's only going to grow with the news that yesterday ABC capitulated, surrendered, kowtowed, bent the knee, and pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air. By the way, not for something he said. Do not fool yourself into thinking that ABC pulled him for the specific thing that they say that he said. Now, we could talk about the remark. I'm not going to. You go look at the remark, and you look in there and you see, again, what is it that is so over the line that it's worth even a day's suspension, much less being pulled off the network indefinitely. It's not about what Jimmy Kimmel said. It's what Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, a Donald Trump loyalist, said in threatening ABC, and prior to that, threatening CBS, and prior to that, threatening other media. The head of the FCC, which licenses broadcast stations right now, is not in any way, shape, or form independent or looking out for the freedom of broadcasters and their First Amendment rights to share expressions in the arena of ideas. Brendan Carr, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Derrick Van Orden, and others are in the business right now of trying to silence critics through intimidation, through prosecution, through fear, and through falsehoods. And corporate America just gave up again with another late night comic. And they're not going to stop there until more people, including the people at some of these corporations, finally begin pushing back and standing up for themselves and for our Constitution. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're up north.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
Do you remember one of the first executive orders put in place by President Donald Trump stopped about $19 billion of federal funding from flowing to USDA grant recipients? I'm PM Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Thursday. So where do those federal funds stand today? We'll find out.
From sugar beet fields to dairy facilities, producers count on an operating line of credit from Ag Country Farm Credit Services to help make their operations more profitable. With multi-year commitment options, digital tools, and remote deposit.
You've got the Kelly audio ready to go here?
Yeah, I've got that.
Okay. I'll tease that she's here, but at first we're going to listen to her latest video. We'll play that 60 seconds, and then we'll come out to her.
Awesome.
And I'll tell her about that right now, because here she is. Hello, Kelly.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Parker here, our producer. I was just talking to him about how I'm going to set up that you're about to appear, that first we're going to play your latest video. So we're going to play the first 60 seconds of that video, and then we'll come out to the two of us and we'll get the conversation started. Okay?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. I'll see you in a little bit.
Stuff that I never imagined, the kind of chaos that I did not know how to find myself around. It's like the pandemic all over again, with unpredictability, volatility, crisis. Some of that has abated, I will say, but some of it has abated because there are definitely people that are giving up on the federal government and their role in agriculture.
Rachel Armstrong, she's the executive director and founder of Farm Commons. She says today they're estimating there's still about $2.6 billion of federal funds that are frozen and under review. She said they'll be updating their website and continuing to provide free services and webinars. You can find them at farmcommons.org.
What does it mean to be a Dairyland seed difference maker? For our corn seed, it means having the industry's most advanced technology and traits to deliver exactly what Midwestern farmers need, like the next-gen rootworm protection that comes with high-performance Vorseed technology, like the ultimate above-ground pest control you'll find in proven PowerCore technology. And just like all the other powerful features of our full lineup of performance corn products designed for your soils and conditions. Find your Dairyland Seed Corn Difference Maker at dairylandseedcorn.com.
And 4 finalists have been announced for the 2025 Wisconsin Leopold Conservation Award. They include Andy Benson from Barron County, Michael Berg, Lafayette County, Brassett Family Farms in Jefferson County, and Pat Michelle Sosha in Marathon County. Find out details about them all at MidwestFarmReport.com. I'm PM Yankee. Catch Farm Report updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Partly sunny, warm and muggy with a slight storm chance today and a high in the mid-80s. Better chance of storms tonight, low in the low 60s. More storms around Friday, high upper 70s. Rain chances continue into the weekend. Right now it's 61.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
Talk about overall mental health, how we cope with this non-stop, overwhelming news. Tom, thanks for calling. What's say?
Nobody can do push-ups indefinitely, but bring this back to mental health, and suddenly we feel able to pound through this without taking any kind of a break. And it's just not the way that it works. So do any action that takes you away from whatever it is that you're stressing out. Go for a walk, get a drink of water, read a book.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays 2 to 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your
30 seconds.
Tomorrow, of course, we'll have our regular weekend review panel with former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, journalists Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze, Courier Newsroom's Kia Vakil, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, Mike Clemens with sports, Brittany Merlot's weekend forecast. Just a lot to tune into tomorrow. If you can't stick around, then put us on a podcast. Head over to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure you follow Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Today, a federal committee that recommends vaccine policy for Americans is going to start meeting to review immunizations that have been in use for a very long time. It's called the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP, and it's expected to vote on shots for COVID and hepatitis B as well as others. And of course, as we've talked about, the health secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr., has frequently baselessly questioned the safety of these vaccines. And yesterday, you'll recall, we played a clip from Senator Tammy Baldwin talking to Susan Menarez, who was ousted as head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention after less than a month, because Menarez says Kennedy directed her to commit in advance to approving everything this ACIP board is about to recommend, regardless of the scientific evidence. With this ongoing campaign trying to undermine public faith in vaccines, it's worth going back to basics and finding out just what vaccines are, what it is that makes them work the way that they do. And that fits right in the wheelhouse of pediatrician Dr. Kelly Snooks, who is beginning a new video series for Up North News called Raising Wisconsin. And her latest installment, which was posted yesterday, talks all about vaccines. We're going to give a listen to that before we talk live with Dr. Kelly Snooks.
Hey, Wisconsinites, have you ever wondered exactly what's happening inside your body after you get a vaccine? Like, how is it working to protect you? I'm Dr. Kelly Snooks, board certified pediatrician, and you're here with this week's Raising Wisconsin. Now let's talk about how vaccines actually work. The vaccines we get today protect us against so many viruses and bacteria, and each vaccine contains what we call an antigen for the disease that it's meant to protect you against. It might be a weakened or killed part of that germ, or even a tiny piece of its genetic material. These antigens essentially mimic the illness, and they sound an alarm to your body's immune system. Your immune system creates what we call antibodies against that particular virus or bacteria. That way, the next time your body encounters the actual illness, it's like, wait a minute, I know what to do with this. Then the antibodies that you've stored up thanks to that vaccine spring into action and prevent that virus or bacteria from making you severely ill. It's your body's way of building a powerful defense without having to get really sick first.
That again is Dr. Kelly Snooks, who joins us now to talk about the Raising Wisconsin series she's doing for Up North News. Dr. Snooks, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pat. Thanks for having me. I'm well. How are you?
Well, thank you very much. So nice to have you here and have you doing this series for us. We're going to talk much more generally about the series, but with vaccines in the news lately, I just wanted to check, certainly with my wife being a physician, I'm imagining that you, like her, have probably had that basic vaccines 101 conversation more so recently, maybe than in years past. It's always been a thing, helping parents understand vaccines, but understanding how vaccines work seems to be much more in the public consciousness these days.
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of discussion about vaccines lately, as we've seen with what's going on today. And I think that people are starting to get a lot of information and misinformation and really starting to question what is real and what is not. So these conversations about how vaccines work, what do they actually protect us against, have become far more common now than they were when I was even just doing general pediatrics during my residency training.
Uh, and yes, obviously it's part of the world that we live in now. There's a lot more information, therefore misinformation. And even if it's not misinformation, again, I think every doctor winces when a patient comes in and they got a referral from Dr. Google. And Dr. Google said, here's what you have. And then you have to maybe explain that that may not necessarily be the case. So let's be sympathetic to the patients there. We're surrounded by more information than ever before. So what kind of guidelines do you like to offer your own patients when it comes to what they read and hear versus what they could hear through a visit to your office?
Yeah, I think there's reassurance, right? That, like you had said, there's so much information at their fingertips, and they're not wrong to be concerned and look up this information to try and help them understand things a little bit better. I think when it comes to having those conversations with patients, we in medical school go through so much training on how to actually understand what studies have been gone through rigorous testing, what is some of the evidence that actually works to show that these treatments or vaccines, for example, are safe versus those that, are maybe not as safe, or what studies are out there that are the ones that people are getting a hold of and being concerned about, that actually those studies are not as rigorous or actually have some really big flaws to them. So, I think it's just that reassurance that you're okay to look this stuff up, but let's kind of go over what is the actual evidence behind these treatments or recommendations that we're giving you.
Yeah, exactly. And go through it together, go through the information because, and this is the awkward part to bring up, but it certainly reminds us of the early months of the pandemic. Science researchers, doctors, they're not infallible. And as we learned early on in the COVID pandemic, we were still learning our way through that. But that's not the same as being uninformed. It's simply taking you where the science takes you to next. And so less listeners are saying, oh, there goes another physician and another physician spouse with some kind of a, superiority complex or whatever. No, there's still things we don't know out there, but the alternative is not to just go based on innuendos and rumors and things like that, right?
Right. One of the things that I think we call ourselves in medicine is lifelong learners, because medicine is constantly evolving. But the reason that it's evolving is because, science has advanced so much over the past couple of centuries. I actually talk about that in one of my past videos, but the way that science is evolving, the way that these studies are going on, we are also learning, and our recommendations might be changing because of new evidence that we have learned from new studies or new treatments that are out there.
We're talking to Dr. Kelly Snook. She's a pediatrician and is doing a video series for Up North News called Raising Wisconsin, which leads to this question. Doctors are busy people. You guys have been studying forever. You work in these long days, and now you're doing a video series, and you've been making videos on the internet for some time now. You're not the only doctor doing it, but can you talk to us about why you decided to get onto social media to start bringing these information to folks when, you could have just sat in an office with a clipboard all day, but you've decided to be more proactive. What motivated you?
Yeah, I think social media is a tool that you realize that you can reach so many people. I am a pediatric intensive care unit doctor, so I am seeing really sick kids, and a lot of what I'm seeing is actually preventable. So one of the first ways that I took to social media was actually for gun violence prevention because of what I was seeing at the bedside. And I think social media is one of those unique tools that can bring people together to connect, but then also has this reach that you can't even imagine, like how far your videos are actually going and being seen. And I think it's another way for us to just spread information and awareness about what is going on in the world, what's going on in public health. And as a pediatrician, public health and almost all these policy changes actually impact child health in a way that I don't think people can maybe understand or see. So it's my goal to kind of break that down and say, hey, here's what's actually going on, and here's how this can actually impact children.
What kinds of things would you like to emphasize in the Raising Wisconsin series? Things that either you've already done to start the series or things that you hope to do in the near future?
Yeah, so things that we've already done. So we have a few videos that are already out. One is just about like traveling safe during the summer. People are hitting the road, they are flying, airplanes are full of germs. So how do you stay safe when you're flying?
And then also the history of vaccines is another one that's been out there. So where did vaccines come from in the first place? We go through the details of the overlap between the cowpox virus and the smallpox virus back from the 1700s. So we go into detail on that. And then the one that you had just recently played about how vaccines actually work. It's not going to be all about vaccines. We're also going to cover other topics as well. Seasonal allergies will be coming up, how to stay safe in the car as far as car seats and safety go, bug bites, things along those lines. So everything from general health and wellness about children to some of the stuff that's going on. And I would like to know what other people want to see too, really addressing viewers' comments to try and get on those topics.
Yeah, that's been a real focus of the videos is inviting people to share their own questions that can be addressed later on in the series. Dr. Kelly Snooks is with us. Tell us a bit about your own background and where you grew up, what led you to become a physician and go to med school.
Yeah, so I am originally from the south side of Chicago. Grew up a little girl that I think just was, that basic, I think I want to be a doctor when I grow up, and I stuck with it. I chose pediatrics and did my pediatrics training on the south side of Chicago because, children really don't have that much impact on their health in the future. A lot of the decisions that we make as an adult impact how they end up in the future. And I think that as a pediatrician, we have that unique ability to advocate for our patients to ensure that they can live healthy and fulfilling lives in the future. So that's why I chose pediatrics and went through that. I did medical school and my pediatrics training in Chicago, and then came up here to Milwaukee for my ICU training and have been here ever since. So yeah, that's why I kind of went that route.
And in working as a pediatrician, and you talk about the things that you've seen in the ICU, and so many times they are preventable. And we did, again, share some of the audio from people who, including the former chief medical officer of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Howery. And the soundbite concluded talking about, how many more children are getting the measles and sometimes getting complications and sometimes dying unnecessarily, and that we're seeing that uptick. And we're in a state here in Wisconsin, which I think would shock a lot of people, that when it comes to measles immunizations heading into kindergarten, our rate is low enough now that it doesn't meet the standard for what's called herd immunity. So can you talk a bit about just measles and kids and getting up to date on those vaccinations and the danger if that vaccination rate sinks as low as it has in Wisconsin?
Yeah, so I mean, I think since the time that I've been in Wisconsin or in Milwaukee, and that's since 2018, we've had already 2 measles outbreaks. And like you said, our vaccination rates are really low in Milwaukee, below that herd immunity. Basically, that herd immunity rate is that enough people are protected against measles that if one individual were to get the measles, the rest of the community is protected enough that we will likely be able to overcome that and we won't see a large outbreak. Measles can be very scary when children get it. It can cause, brain damage and ultimately death from that measles virus. And that's why we emphasize so much those kindergartners, and actually even younger, you get it at 1 year, to start getting that measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine to protect themselves against these severe illnesses that they can get. And the risk is actually to those that are even younger. So if you think about the children that are under 1 that haven't been immunized yet against the measles, mumps, and rubella, those individuals are even more so at risk because when we don't have that herd immunity, then they also don't even have the chance to get themselves vaccinated yet. There are some unique circumstances, so I recommend everybody talking to their pediatrician about that if you're under a year old and want to get your child vaccinated against the measles.
Absolutely. And again, for more, you can check out the Raising Wisconsin video series on the Up North News social media feeds, and send in your questions as well that Dr. Kelly Snooks can use for a future video installment. Kelly, it's great to talk to you again. Thank you so much for all you do. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me. You as well.
All right. Good to have you here. Coming up in our next hour, we will talk to Sean O'Malley about your money and the markets and what does it really mean that the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates a little bit yesterday as the economy sits on the verge of stagflation. Plus Joe Zepecki and more. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, Kelly, we're good. We're in break. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Todd Alba.
Well, gentlemen, how are you?
Well, I'm still on the air. I haven't been yanked
Me
off.
too. I go. Well, I'm not on the air yet, but
Yep.
I'm scheduled
It's now,
to be.
it's now news when we're on the air.
You're
Pretty
beating the
much.
trend.
Yep. Look at you. Look at your October t-shirt. Look at you. Trendsetter.
Try.
All right.
Try.
Oh, dear. So,
Yeah.
like I said at the start, I never thought I'd be in the business of defending Jimmy Kimmel. He's a nice enough guy, but I mean, he's third on the list. Although it depends. Jimmy Fallon
Really?
is
You
just
think-
so
Yeah,
vanilla. Oh my God.
He's milk toast. I depending upon the night, I would say Colbert followed by Kimmel, but
Yeah.
there's been times when Kimmel's been at the top.
Now, keep in mind, I haven't been a late night TV watcher in many, many years now. But I still think that if I were, I would not be able to stick with just the one show. I feel like I'd have to dip between them all, as just to see what they're all doing.
Yeah. What I got sick for a while in Trump's first term. Stephen Colbert was every single monologue was 3 minutes of him in the Trump voice, reading the Trump truth tweets and all that. It's just like enough. It's after the 10th, 100th time is not funny anymore. Just stop. So I kind of went to Kimmel for a while, but I mean, I like a lot of I liked some of the older stuff when Kimmel's uncle was on, and then he passed away, and that was anyway. Sorry, didn't mean to go.
No, it's okay. And then
late night rabbit hole. Because I kind of am a student of late night television.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But then during the writer strike, they all got together and did a podcast together.
Yes, that was great.
What the heck was it called? Like Air Force 5 or something like that. And it was such a good podcast. I think it was only like 12 episodes maybe, but it was great because in the beginning they clearly they knew of each other, but they'd never worked together. And so like the first 2.5 episodes are kind of clunky, and then you kind of feel that it's starting to gel. And by like the 5th episode, I think it was, when they brought one of the wives in and they did kind of a game show thing amongst themselves.
Right.
I mean, we were just crying. We were laughing so hard at these guys because I mean, they're professionals, they're once they got the rhythm, they were good to go.
Ready to go.
All right. 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Well, it's another busy day of quality programming across the Civic Media Radio Network. Let me tell you about it. And I'm going to work the other way this time. I'm going to start at the end of the day and work my way up. Actually, it's going to be completely disjointed, and you'll see why. But Nightlight tonight with Pete Schwaba includes the popcorn pick of the week with writer Victoria Davis. Mike Clemens will be along to talk about sports. On Maggie Dawn's show this afternoon from 4 to 6, at 4:35, she will be talking to Robert Benson, who is the Associate Director for National Security and International Policy at the Center for American Progress. Matt Nair on Air follows this fine program from 9 to 11. Jane Mattnair and Greg Bach will be talking to former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel at 9:35 this morning. And at 10:35 with J.R. Radcliffe, Journal Sentinel sports reporter. So again, that's Matt Nair on Air from 9 to 11. And I can hear you now going, well, didn't you forget somebody? I mean, I know Jimmy Kimmel, is out there. Did they finally get Todd Alba too? No, he's here. We were just saving it for last. Todd will have Representative Francesca Hong on this afternoon at 2:35, new candidate for governor, if he hasn't canceled between now and then. And, that's always up to, forces beyond ours. But I have Todd pretty good faith in civic media management that they're not going to be surrendering to Donald Trump anytime soon.
Well, you hope not. You hope not. Yeah, I mean, I mean, you got the great first to get State Rep Hong on yesterday. Great interview, and we're looking forward to chatting with her today at 2:35, and then at 3:35, Keegan Kelly of Cracked.com, who was just on a few weeks ago talking about the cancellation of Colbert, is back today to talk about the latest situation with Jimmy Kimmel. And I know you talked about it earlier in the show, so I don't need to rehash all of it, but I mean,
that's okay. It was 6:00 in the morning. Yeah, we a few people have been awakened since that time, and I told you off air. I said it and jokingly about, I didn't think I'd be in the business of defending Jimmy Kimmel because I would be much more likely to watch Stephen Colbert, or sometimes Jimmy Fallon if I don't want anything controversial at all to be said. But Jimmy Kimmel's a good guy. He's funny, and as I've made clear, let's not kid ourselves. He was not canned, and he probably is going to be canned, but I'm jumping to conclusions here. But not for anything that he said. Not for anything that he said. And Donald Trump gave away the game with a tweet afterwards that called on NBC to fire Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon. Again, without pointing to anything that they said. They're just trying to turn everything into, if not state-run media, then media that is afraid of the state.
Well, this is right out of the playbook, and our friend Trivia Olson can speak to this, but it's right from Viktor Orban, and where you get rid of dissenting voices, not because they're inciting violence, but because they're challenging the authority of the people in elected office. And I think it's really, really dangerous. I saw the Jimmy Kimmel clip, for which he was allegedly suspended over for. He didn't say anything that I literally played part of the clip myself on our show last week, the part where Trump was getting ready to go off to Europe. And one of the Fox reporters, I believe, said, "Mr. President, sorry for your loss, about your friend Charlie Kirk. How are you doing?" And with a smile on his face, he said, "I think I'm doing well. And by the way, right over here is the new ballroom that we're doing." Yeah. And so Kimmel played that after he said, look, MAGA is trying to do everything they can to get this shooter, convince people they had nothing to do with MAGA. There's nothing, in my opinion, disrespectful about that. Kimmel was simply putting the truth out there, and it's very dangerous times, in my opinion. As you said, now he's calling on Fallon and Seth Meyers to go as well. Right. I do think, you've been in broadcasting, Pat. You've sat behind the anchor desk at EAU in Eau Claire. I think civic media is licensed, because here's the thing: people like broadcast television, ABC, NBC, CBS affiliates, and radio, commercial over-the-air radio stations have to be licensed by the FCC. Places like MSNBC, cable does not, or podcasting does not. I don't think it's out. You tell me, Pat. Are we reaching the point where, as we reach a gubernatorial election, and shows like You and Mine on this network are rightfully critical of MAGA people in office or running for office, and just for craps and giggles, they go to the FCC chair and say, get rid of civic media, and they threaten all the broadcast licenses of this network?
Well, and if not threaten the license, then go to either owners or investors. Again, in the case of Kimmel, is that you had these two big groups like Nexstar and what's the other one, Sinclair, and these have ownerships that are equally in bed with Donald Trump, and so they're the ones who are making these decisions. I'll say this much about licensed outlets like these: because of the time we live in, they can try to come after licenses. But thanks to the interwebs and thanks to, good old American ingenuity and rebelliousness, we haven't used this term for a while. But if they come after licenses, you're used to this term, pirate radio.
Yeah.
You're going to see,
I'm not
if
laughing,
they come after
you
license,
yeah.
You're going to see unlicensed stations popping up and internet stations that are popping up. If they think they can somehow silence dissent through this campaign of intimidation and legal maneuvers, they're sadly mistaken. And you can just feel the votes trickling away in 2026 as more moderates see this and go, hold on, I'm no Democrat, but I'm also not a fascist, and we're not going to be doing this. We're not going to be, pulling people's broadcast licenses for just being opposed to the ruling party. That's not how it goes here in America.
No better person I'd like to be on a pirate radio pontoon boat with in Lake Wissota than Pat Kreitlow. That's right. It's Kreitlow and Allball pirate pontoon radio from Lake Wissota in the future.
I don't know. I've seen what Trump and JD Vance like to do to boats. Yeah, I mean, granted, they're coming from Venezuela, but I don't know. They might do. They could try that on Lake Wissota. Let me workshop this. See if there's an appropriate place where we can put the pontoon. Thank you, Todd Alba. I got here in your Brewers playoff gear, Meredith on Facebook saying, or YouTube saying, Todd's so fancy in the morning. Sounds like fancy. I have a date. I have a date at 2 p.m. Meredith writes.
Oh, fantastic!
So there you go.
I'm just excited. 6 games, magic number to win the NL Central.
It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Mr. Alba. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. We've got Sean O'Malley, Chad Holmes, and Joe Zepecki all coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. And there we go. Yeah, as soon as you said the pontoon, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, Venezuelan boats.
Right, that was good. Yep, no. Matt, we need a camouflage.
Now again, if we were doing a TV show, now we have the skit, with the pirate radio, and then you show the bombing of the boats or whatever.
Yeah. It's coming.
Such colorful times we're heading into here. Colorful.
Yes. That's one way to say it.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Boys, have a good day. Yep,
Bye.
See you, Todd. I have been told that my college radio station has someone that's pirating our frequency.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I should ask for more details about that. Apparently they're rebroadcasting old Brewer games, which is like incredibly illegal.
I was going to say that's illegal on 2 fronts now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, you follow that. Let us know if we got a genuine story here.
Yeah.
All right. Never know. All right. I'm going to get some coffee.
Hepatitis B. This is ABC News.
Farm news that impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The encampment at Dairy Drive is closing. The resource first opened in 2021 using money from pandemic-era federal grants with 29 tiny home shelters. It gave people experiencing homelessness a stable place to stay and privacy. It was supposed to be temporary, and the city has extended the contract twice since then. But now that federal grant money has run out. The Dairy Drive encampment was set to close September 30th. There was a last-ditch effort to keep it open until the spring, and that measure was considered at Tuesday's Common Council meeting. More than 70 people registered to speak in support of extending it, including some residents of Dairy Drive.
My name is Stacy. Dairy Drive has provided me with a stable place to live. Even though it's not a 3-bedroom house, it's still my home, and it works for me. I'm able to have visitation with my son, where I can make him food, play basketball, and take him to the park. This place has shown my kid how to care for each other.
It was a long night. Alders didn't vote until after 1 a.m, and the vote was tight. Ultimately, the measure failed by just 1 vote, and now Dairy Drive will be closing September 30th. And you can expect some major traffic in the Oregon and Brooklyn area tonight. About 13,000 people are expected to go see Luke Bryan at Klondike Farms in Brooklyn tonight. The show starts at 6 o'clock. The sheriff's office says if you're going, build in some extra time. If you're not going to the show, but you need to be in that area, they say you'll probably want to find a detour. The sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies will be there directing traffic. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers prepare for Cleveland. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports NFL. The Packers face the Browns in Cleveland Sunday at noon. Although they're now 0-2, the Browns showed a good run defense against the Bengals and the Ravens. Matt LaFleur.
Really good players across really their whole defense. That's a big reason they're the top-ranked defense in football right now. But they've got a lot of guys that are hard penetrating front. that caused a lot of problems for quarterbacks.
College football, Wisconsin Badgers host Maryland Saturday at 11 a.m. The Terrapins are 3-0, Wisconsin 2-1. The Brewers going for a sweep after beating the Angels again last night, 9-2 in Milwaukee. Brandon Woodruff with 10 strikeouts, allowing just 1 run on 2 hits, getting his 10th win of the season.
Tonight was a big outing for me in terms of just getting the body back acclimated. You know, it's been roughly 10 days or whatever it was. And yeah, it was huge for me to get back out there. And my body got going there in the second, and then everything kind of back to normal.
That's the Brewers' Brandon Woodruff with Sports on Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Town Hall Ball Show, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Partly sunny, warm and muggy with a slight storm chance today and a high in the mid-80s. Better chance of storms tonight, low in the low 60s. More storms around Friday, high upper 70s. Rain chances continue into the weekend. Currently, it's 59 degrees.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Frank Herman's. When we moved here, I called the Y because my daughter was like, 7 years old. I said, hey, I'm calling about your beginner's gymnastics class.
Is this where you want to be?
I think.
I think so. Okay.
That was hysterical.
Did you figure out? Did you find the right one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Finally.
All right. Okay,
I just
good.
kept clicking yours.
I know. I'm like, stop harassing us. Oh my God.
Damn, Brittany really wants to talk to Pat. What's going on?
I know. It's like, I like this show. I want to be on this show.
Yes.
Which you would totally just say the word. You get to stay on the whole hour anytime.
Oh, thanks.
All right. 45 seconds.
Tune in to the Rick Smith Show. We're digging into the issues that affect your job, your family, your future. Join me weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network, because your voice...
30 seconds.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Thank you, Don. It's Thursday, September 18th, 8:06. Nice to have you back here up north across the Civic Media Radio Network. Parker Olson is our producer down in Madison Studio A2. We're here with meteorologist Brittany Merlot and, of course, Chad Holmes from 98.9 WXCO in Wausau. And, guys, I just, while getting some creamer for my coffee, took a look and was reminded of what I have for lunch today. And so we're going to play the game, My Lunch is Better Than Your Lunch. Because last night, folks, get yourself a spouse who will make pizza crusts from scratch. And so we every so often will have homemade pizza, because she'll get out the mix master and she'll make up a big old ball of dough and turn that into 2 different pizza crusts so that we can decorate our pizzas however we like. And can we talk about homemade pizza when you get control over all the things,
Right.
The whole ratio of cheese and garlic and all the
What did you go heavy on, Pat?
What did I go? Garlic.
Garlic.
Heavy on garlic. And yet she's still married to me. And the pepperoni and mushroom and sun-dried tomatoes. I don't know. Brittany, if you were building your own pizza, what would you go heavy on?
I'd do pepperoni, green peppers, mushrooms, black olives. I would throw everything. I don't know.
Okay.
It'd probably
Chad?
be a messy pizza, but
That's all right.
delicious.
Chad, making your own pizza.
Sausage, onions, and green peppers.
Sausage,
Very
onions,
simple.
and green peppers. Hey, that's all right. I learned because the other kind of pizza we make is we'll make a deep dish one. I'll make that in a cast iron skillet. She'll make the dough, and the recipe that I have for that includes, once you've put the other stuff in, after the mozzarella, is just a little bit of Parmesan and just a little bit of olive oil and just a teeny tiny bit more of garlic. So it's right there on the top. Do you realize people are still trying to eat breakfast right now, and I'm over here getting them all set for lunch already? So I've got some homemade pizza standing by that I just had to brag about.
You can't stop thinking about it. And I mean, for us morning folk, we eat lunch early in the morning.
I was going to
honestly,
say
right?
my lunch is 52 minutes away, so
Yep.
this works out just fine for me. Brittany, folks are having their breakfast right now. Some of them getting a little wet in the process here.
Yeah, they are. We've got some scattered showers, light sprinkles moving in, especially up in the Northwoods. Far northeast, we're seeing that towards the Rhinelander, Minocqua area. Then also south and west by La Crosse, the Mississippi River Valley and south, you're seeing a few of those sprinkles moving in too. And we're statewide seeing more clouds out there. So a darker day, but we will see spots of sunshine. A lot of sunshine is holding on near Milwaukee right now. But what we've got happening is a front that is slowly dropping through the state today. And it's unstable. So it's sparking some of these showers, and they will spark again later on this evening, probably after 5 o'clock or so. Could be anywhere, but I'm thinking further north is where those are going to target. Highs today will be a little bit cooler up north, only reaching 70 degrees. And then down south, you're still hanging on to that heat, hitting the mid 80s still. So that's our day today. And then tomorrow, it is going to stay mostly cloudy. It is going to get breezier. That system itself, the low pressure, is going to get closer and closer. And it does move in Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's going to bring some widespread rain. Heavy totals are possible. We could see up to 2 inches in places, especially if you keep getting underneath the thunderstorms. And I'd say at least a half an inch to an inch widespread rain by the time the weekend is said and done. So this all ramps up Friday into our Saturday and Sunday, and it drags our high temperatures down to the mid 60s north to about the mid 70s south.
Okay, well, I mean, sometimes you get the perfect September weekends, and sometimes you got to keep the gear handy. Parker, my apologies, I didn't come to you next. Pizza toppings?
I mean, any meats, really. Any
meats.
sausage.
All right.
Pepperoni.
Let's throw a grenade in the middle of this. All right, everybody. Tony, in capital letters. Whoops. Tony in capital letters. Pineapple. Followed by 3 or 4 exclamation points. We'd like to thank Tony for his service. He will no longer be part of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. I mean, come on, pineapple.
You know what? I just
What?
tried. I went up north to Cable, and there was this pizza place, and they had mangoes on their pizza. And it was so different and so interesting. I decided to try it. And I'm Italian, right? I like the classic pizza.
Mhm.
It was actually good. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Tony also says it's cloudy and rainy up in Ashland, so much better than the 80s. Robin Tigerton says, I love a homemade pizza, onions, cucumbers, ham, and hamburger.
Cucumbers.
Yeah, that's a new one on me. Fall colors along 29 west of Shawano are looking beautiful. He took some pictures. Let's see. I also missed some of what he had earlier. He said he had the air conditioning going in Shawano back when the temperature hit 89 and felt like July at times. He had a mowing job and a doctor's appointment in Shawano yesterday, and then had spaghetti and meatballs at the Shawano Cafe, which is also not a bad way to go. So,
No, not at all.
all kinds of good meals. Brittany, thank you so much for playing Stack That Pizza with us. And
Now you got my tummy grumbling. Thank you.
I know. All right. Talk to you a little bit later.
Yeah.
Now we've got Chad who's working all kinds of high school football games and not getting anything like a delicious homemade pizza by and large. You're getting just, what'd you say last week? You just bring like your own fruit snacks or something, or is that just Parker who eats those?
I think that's not me.
Okay. Just concession stand hot dogs and things like that. So anyway, you looking forward to your games this week?
Yeah, I got one tonight and tomorrow. So anything to avoid thinking about
the state of the world,
how this country is falling down a rabbit hole here. So I'm doing my best here, Pat, but I am livid this morning. And I guess I was doing the big high school sports show last night. I get home and I see what ABC did, and it's ridiculous. And I don't know how to go about this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you can help me out here, because I am just beyond. Because we're seeing it here in Wausau too. I mean, there's a controversy this week because a alderperson made a comment concerning Charlie Kirk, and gotta fire him. I mean, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the government trying to pick winners and losers. And if it's one thing, we have a responsibility when we have a microphone. And it's a freedom of speech, but there's responsibility. You don't have the right to be here. If I say something really, really stupid, then obviously our bosses would have the complete right to say,
exactly,
no, we don't want you here anymore. But it's so one way. I went through this morning, in the last hour, I spent some time talking about the fact that we have Jimmy Kimmel and others who make, I think, comments that are not nearly as bad as what Brian Kilmeade did last week.
Talking about euthanizing the homeless, right?
Yeah, what Jesse Waters did in the last week, talking about civil war and vengeance and all of that. Not what Greg Gutfeld did when he said that conservatives should embrace the term Nazi. There's crickets.
Yeah, yeah. Not to mention the horrible things they said after Melissa Hortman was assassinated in Minnesota over the summer. So, I mean, none of them have clean hands on this. They are simply using this as an excuse for a power play and going after media that they think will submit. And so far, national media has been extremely submissive. And this one from ABC is especially frustrating because they saw the Stephen Colbert thing. They know it had nothing to do with money, that it had nothing to do with speech. It was complete politics on the behalf of Trump and the owners of Paramount and trying to get a deal done. ABC knows all this, and yet they caved to pressure anyway. And I mean, you can see why corporate media, this isn't exactly their golden era right now, shall we say.
And also, again, it's a combination. Yes, we need some courage being shown in that realm, but also it is so, and I would say, use the term un-American, to see what Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, did. This all started yesterday. He went on Benny Johnson's podcast, who is a far-right provocateur, and he basically said he's going after ABC and Disney and Jimmy Kimmel. And we are seeing things that have not been done before by government entities. We saw did you see on the Rose Garden lawn? Well, there's no lawn anymore, but
right, the slab, the concrete slab.
When Trump was getting ready to fly off to Great Britain this week, he got a couple of questions he didn't like, because basically he was asked, how much money have you made since you became president again? Because his family is just raking it in right now, using his position. And then he got on Jonathan Karl and said, ABC paid me $16 million. We're going to go after you next.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
The president of the United States saying that at the White House. I just
again, we've drawn the parallels.
A line has to be drawn here.
Yes, we've drawn the parallels to what happened in Hungary with Viktor Orban becoming an autocratic, well, basically a dictator in everything but name, I guess. And it started in large part with this war on all the media there and on all of the universities there, and got enough of them to either kowtow or to be taken over by billionaires who were friendly with the ruling party. And that is exactly what Trump was trying to do here. And so when ABC thought, or CBS, we'll placate him and we'll settle this out of court for $15-16 million. Did you really think that was going to make things easier on you? Now you've basically admitted guilt without admitting guilt, but you're guilty in their eyes, and you are just fair game now. And, again, until some of these entities really start to push back. And by the way, that goes for colleges and universities too. There have been a couple that have, but too many others have been too quick to settle and, sell out themselves and sell out their First Amendment. And it's going to take a lot more courage from a lot more people. Now, I get that it's easier said than done. I'm not sitting in their offices, but I'm looking at their offices anyway and going, you got to try harder to stand up for actual American values.
And also, everybody needs to say, this is not acceptable.
Right.
It is not acceptable for the president of the United States and members of his administration to use their powers to basically say, we're going to stop a merger because we don't like your political speech, or we're going to remove somebody, or if you don't remove somebody, we're going to make trouble for you. That is just completely against what this country has been about, whether it's been a conservative or a liberal in office. The idea that there has to be a litmus test on whether or not you're saying nice things about Donald Trump in order to have a merger put through. I mean, this is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm. so much of what it is. Now, PJ gets on YouTube and says, cancel your Hulu and Disney subscriptions. And there are people doing that to make a statement to ABC. I mean, I canceled my Washington Post subscription when it was clear that Jeff Bezos was going to turn the Washington Post into something that would not hold Donald Trump accountable. It won't make all the difference in the world, but each one of those is a sign that members of the American public understand the stakes, and they're not willing to just go, what are you going to do? I guess I'll keep doing what I'm doing. These little acts, they do add up, and they are a way of getting your voice out there. Your voice isn't as powerful as the powerful, but with enough people, it can make a statement. So I hope people hear your words and don't just get complacent about it.
No, and it's just when you hear it, you can't just say, well, that's the way it is. And that's, when I heard that last night, it was another shot. And and I understand the battle of ideas, but using the power the way that this administration is using it is wrong. And people have to call it out and say, this is wrong. And it's wrong on every level.
You go ahead and call it wrong. I'm going to call it un-American, because that's exactly what I think it is. Chad Holmes, you can catch him on 98.9 WXCO in Wausau. As long as the powers that be let us hang on.
Well, I will send you the check for this this session with my psychiatrist.
Anytime. I'm happy to do that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the opening bell with Sean O'Malley about your money in the markets, including, did the Federal Reserve, did they cave to pressure from the president? Or were they doing what was necessary as somebody drags the economy to the verge of stagflation? That's coming up. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Oh, what a fun time we're having here to comment on the state of the world with Sean O'Malley.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Welcome to the autocratic states of America.
Yep. Okay. Apart from, the state of the United States, how are you otherwise?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Okay.
Can't complain. It's a nice, cool, cloudy day here in Bayfield, perfect to just sort of snuggle up. I wish I could have competed with that pizza thing. I'm going to start with that just so that
absolutely.
We start with a little fun, because let's just face it, the economic news is not great.
No,
as you've already.
I'm always looking for ways to start light. That is totally fine by me. Okay. All right. We will get going in 90 seconds here.
All righty, sir.
"30 seconds.
Welcome back. We've got Milwaukee Brewers baseball tonight. Game 3 of their series against the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame begins at 6:05 across stations on the Civic Media Radio Network. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn more. Let's talk about your money in the markets with Sean O'Malley. Eventually, I mean, we're going to get into the Federal Reserve and interest rates and jobless claims because things are still soft, and the index of leading economic indicators, which isn't great. There's mortgage rates, there's stagflation, there's tariffs. Sean, let's begin with pizza. Why don't you build your perfect pizza for us? What are we putting on that baby?
Absolutely. Well, I have a great recommendation, and I loved Miss Merlot's description of the pizza place in Cable. And considering how many times I have driven through and will continue to drive through Cable because it's right between my two houses, I got to stop in to try that one. But it reminded me of one that I had up here in Bayfield not long ago, in fact, at a local place, St. James Social. And the topping was, believe it or not, peaches, burrata, crumbled bacon, and just a sprinkling of thyme. And it was really lovely.
What's burrata?
It's like a really soft mozzarella. So it's a cheese, but super soft, easily meltable.
And
easily meltable.
Where was this?
At St. James Social here in Bayfield.
In Bayfield. Okay.
Yeah. It's not the regular pizza. It was a seasonal one because it was the end of summer and they still had peaches. So why not put them on a pizza? And it was delicious.
If I ever get an invitation to get on that boat up in Bayfield, I got a place to stop as well along the way for some vittles. So this would be good. All right.
Yep.
How late do you typically sail up there before you have to put things away, put your toys away for the winter?
Well, I had to put the big toy away already, and today is the day to take everything off the small one, and that will get put away. I got to fill out all the forms, and they'll be taking that out. Yeah, there's a new rule that went into effect up here on Chequamegon Point. All the marinas, you cannot have your boat in past the end of October. Now, the reason that this rule exists is due to my father.
Oh no,
true. He absolutely true story. He loved to do something he called the Sail November Club. And so he would keep his boat in until November, do a final sail the first week in November, and then pull it out. That did not go well back in 1991 when we had the
Halloween blizzard.
Exactly. Part of the perfect storm that later hit the East Coast, and his boat got frozen into the marina in Cornucopia.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So now that's the rule. No more of that.
That makes perfect sense now, because I was in the Twin Cities for the Halloween blizzard, and the thread stretched all the way up into Duluth, Ashland, Bayfield. And oh my gosh, I never even thought about that angle of it. Yep. I totally see it now.
Basically like being flash frozen into the lake.
Oh yes, we do. Yeah, with 30 inches of snow to boot. Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've got that image in us to say, life gets rough at all kinds of times. It got rough for a time in 1991. It's a little rough right now, given the geopolitics and everything that's out there. So you had the Federal Reserve through the Federal Open Market Committee announcing a cut in short-term interest rates. We've talked a bit about why you would do that. What's your own overview of what it is they discussed or what they ultimately ended up doing?
What they ultimately ended up doing was making sure that they saved their jobs. For sure. Because we know everybody, the administration has been talking loud and long about, Trump has been saying, I want rate cuts. I want rate cuts. Well, congratulations, sir. You got your rate cut yesterday from the Fed Open Market Committee. However, it was only a 25 basis point cut, only 1/4%. So it was not, it wasn't Christmas. The markets were, a little mixed. Not all the indices were up on the stock market. So I think it was arguably prudent due to the soft jobs number. It definitely would be enough to go back to the White House and say, hey, we did what you wanted. But they went even further when they indicated that there are 2 more cuts that they're considering later this year. So that sort of sets the stage for, possible future cuts. But that also means that what they're seeing in the data that not all of us may see or not all of us may get is that the economy is continuing to soften.
Yeah.
That's certainly showing itself
in jobless claims, right?
Right. We had a big surprise last week with 263,000 initial jobless claims. That was the biggest since I forget which month back in 2021. I think it was April or August or something like that. So a long time. We had another announcement this morning, fortunately a little tamer, 231,000 initial jobless claims. But as we mentioned, I think in one of the earlier shows, there are now more job seekers than there are open jobs. And that hasn't happened in a long time. So just not a real bright employment picture out there.
The closest thing to bright would be mortgage rates that had been falling ahead of the announcement on interest rates. And what has that done for refinancing, and what's your overview of that?
Yeah. So it was interesting. The mortgage rates went down before the announcement, and it drove up demand by almost 60% from the prior week. So a lot of people looking to capture those lower mortgage rates. And I think a lot of that's driven by, consumers trying to lower their costs. They're dealing with, increased prices pretty much across the board. There is one other bright spot, though. There's going to be your fuel costs will probably be going down. OPEC has recently agreed to increase production significantly. That's going to mean that U.S. producers are going to have less incentive to produce because the price won't be worth it. But you as a consumer will probably be paying less at the pump very shortly. Probably estimates are as much as like 25, 30 cents down per gallon versus what you're seeing now. So good news on the cost cutting side, with the mortgage rates and the fuel costs coming down, but everything else is not going the same direction.
We're talking to Sean O'Malley about your money in the markets. We'll continue after the break, followed by Joe Zepecki on this Thursday morning, September 18th. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Where Mr. Zepecki joins us as well. How are you?
Awesome. I love
I have to
living in
stop
a country
asking.
that no longer has a First Amendment that means a damn thing.
I have to stop asking how people
Yeah.
are.
Can we get the Supreme Court of Brazil here? Someone will actually stand up there.
Yes.
My God.
Oh boy. Yep. That's where we're at here. All right. So leading economic indicators, stagflation, tariffs, hit those real quick. I know we're only 30 seconds into it, but any are we looking for more positive responses to the interest rate cut from Wall Street today?
I think it's sort of baked in, they know what to expect. They got their news yesterday. You got the one cut, you got two more cuts, probably going to be 25 basis points each. So a quarter point. So, and they know when the meetings are and when to expect them. And so the reaction yesterday was kind of, meh, if you will.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Sounds good. I'll see you at 8:35.
30 seconds.
This is normally the time you hear me say you should sign up for our newsletter at Up North News by going to upnorthnewswi.com and clicking subscribe in the banner at the top of the homepage. But I'm not going to say that. Kind of did. Instead, I'm going to tell you Civic Media now has a new daily newsletter filled with all kinds of links to some of the highlights from shows of the previous day, with guests that are coming up, and so much more. It's on Substack, so sign up at civicmediatoday.substack.com and be part of Civic Media's new daily newsletter. Let's talk about your money and the markets after the opening bell here with Sean O'Malley and that ever-loving stagflation that appears to be hanging on. I mean, you've got the Fed cutting interest rates a quarter point, but I mean, nothing in there says to me, well, that should take care of inflation, and you've got a sluggish job market. I sense a lot of treading water still.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, Pat. They're trying to not make any sudden moves. I mean, I think part of it is they're probably a little bit afraid of doing what they did back in 2022, where they kept raising rates and far further than anyone expected them to, and far more aggressively, and they really overshot the mark then. So they're trying to take a more measured response at this time. Certainly, they're making the current administration happy with that move. But yeah, it's sort of a placate to the soft employment market without too much of a raise in rates so that you're going to make inflation even worse than it already is. So there are a lot of factors in play, but we know that everyone is looking and expecting an overall softer economy going forward.
Well, especially when you've got like we like to say, on the one hand, inflation, on the other hand, employment. And now you've got this, while you've got things in both hands, you've got the third thing is political pressure, punching you in the gut while you're looking at the things in your two hands here. So, I mean, it's not an easy time to try to actually manage the economy.
Very true. Although some would describe that target as a little lower than the gut, but yes.
yes. I try to make these things radio friendly where I can. And fine, let's conclude with Tariff Watch, the tax tally. Tariffs are taxes on the American consumer. And what's the tote board looking like?
Yeah, this is going to be a new segment that I want to do monthly. So we'll keep track of how much we as consumers have had to pay in additional taxes through the tariffs. So this is going to be the Tariff Watch tax tally. Lots of alliteration there to make it easy to remember. So the Tariff Watch tax tally as of the end of August is $183.6 billion. So
that's without a farm bailout.
That's without the farm bailout. If you include the farm bailout, most of the experts are saying you're going to need at least double that.
Ooh.
So, are we winning yet?
No,
we're just,
no, I don't believe we're winning.
Screwing over every trading partner we've got, a lot of our allies, and making ourselves obsolete in the process. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen in the future when you try to reestablish commerce with a lot of these trading partners that have now since moved on.
And even if they come back, there'll be the mistrust. And I know we talked about it last week in conclusion, but it really sticks with me as you drive around here. You drive around and you see cornfields, but you see a lot of soybean fields, and those soybeans, I mean, it's looking good. It's looking good until they're either left rotting in the field or piling up and rotting, because I believe the tote board for China ordering soybeans does that tote board still read 0 as far as we know?
It still reads 0, Pat. That's correct. And remember, you've got to consider that they are the world's biggest buyer of soybeans. But they have decided, and I'm sure this is supported by, President Xi Jinping, of China that they're not going to order a single soybean from the U.S., which seems to be what's happening. And they ordered everything from Brazil instead. And I know exactly what you're talking about with respect to those fields. I drive, past them between the two houses. I see tons of corn out there. I see tons of soybeans, and nothing has been harvested yet. And I'm wondering, will it?
I'm wondering, speaking of Brazil, maybe could we import their Supreme Court?
I think we should enter negotiations to trade for that. Certainly a Supreme Court with a backbone willing to uphold the rule of law. What a novel concept. That could be something that we could consider.
Yeah, against a former president trying to stage a coup. Boy, a Supreme Court exchange would be grand. Sean O'Malley, finance and economics expert, joining us on Thursday mornings. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Pat. Take care.
All right. Yep. Good to see you. It is 8:40 right now, and we'll talk more about the state of geopolitics, media politics, whatever you want to call it, with Joe Zepecki. Joe, I think I finally learned my lesson. I'm no longer going to ask, how are you? I keep looking for the perfect answer to how are you. I think the right thing is to just stop asking and to find a new opening question.
Yeah.
Because there's no great answer to that one, especially after recent events involving, a president pushing another talk show host off the air and a congressman continuing to use the First Amendment like toilet paper.
Yeah. A week ago, we had a pretty hard conversation in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Mm-hmm. And my take on it was that we just need to declare and decide these are politically violent times, and that acceptance of that reality is the first step in finding our way out of a politically violent period of time. And so if you ask 1 week later, have things gotten better or worse in the wake of Kirk's murder? The answer is unequivocally that things have gotten worse. That what has happened in the last week is not concerning. It is deeply alarming. This is happening. And what I'm talking about specifically in the last 24 hours is the government, the federal government, threatening broadcasters, corporations in this country who air things like comedy, and saying, you haven't taken part in speech we disagree with, and so we can do this the hard way or the easy way. And the capitulation by ABC and Disney to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air for a joke about Donald Trump that was, if we're being honest, like pretty benign.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great joke.
No,
right?
It wasn't a reason. It was an excuse.
It was an excuse. And for Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, who in the past has said things which demonstrate he understands we are in a very bad place if the government is trying to engage in censorship. And now, as the head of the FCC is engaging in that censorship himself, we have crossed another red line. And we just need to be as clear-eyed about that and about the current threat to the First Amendment this week as we were about the fact that we live in politically violent times last week.
Yeah. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. And here's one way it's not going to get better. And I wish I had better news for folks. But I have to say, here's how it's not going to get better. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder, there was a lot of talk about Charlie Kirk's record, his legacy, his quotes. And in normal times, that would have eventually faded, and people would have focused more on, we can't have this kind of political violence in the country, and we would all unite around that. But instead, what is happening right now is that as you're seeing this, vengeance campaign that puts the First Amendment in a wood chipper and starts getting people fired and shows canceled and organizations threatened with defunding, the response to that is going to be, you know what? Let's remind ourselves what these people were saying And Charlie Kirk's words are going to come back. I've already seen this online. People going, hey, by the way, before we turn this guy into a martyr, before we turn him into a saint, here's a reminder of what he had to say. And that's simply going to incense the people on the right even more. But I think that's the next step, is to remind people we are not doing the deification of Charlie Kirk. We're not doing it today, and we're not doing it tomorrow.
Think about the extraordinary privilege one has to have people in the wake of their passing, whether untimely in the case of Charlie Kirk or at the end of a very long life, like Robert Redford, who we lost this week. And to have people be trying to figure out what your legacy is and what your time here meant while you were here. That is fine to do. And the notion that people who are just saying this is what Charlie Kirk had to say about this issue, whether that's gun control versus the Second Amendment, whether that is his constitutionally protected, even if by my count pretty gross take on members of the trans community or the intelligence of Black women, to have people engage in a dialogue and share the things that that person said when they were with us, be grounds for you're going to lose your opportunity to make a livelihood. The government is going to censor your speech as a comedian. Like, holy cow, have we lost the plot, folks. I don't know a ton about Charlie Kirk, other than some of the most heinous things he said. But I believe, and I've been told by my conservative friends, that he is someone who cherished the First Amendment and understood that its most important purpose was to protect unpopular speech, right? And he was somebody who was engaging in some quarters, things that people wanted to hear, and in other quarters, people didn't want to hear. If the First Amendment doesn't apply to speech you disagree with, then we are truly lost.
Well, I want to agree with you, but I just have to ask myself, if this had happened instead to Sean Hannity or Nick Fuentes or any of those other folks, would Charlie Kirk be doing just that? Would he be saying, hey, wait a minute, we got to stand up for the First Amendment instead? Right now, one of the few people I've seen doing that is Tucker Carlson, of all people. Once again, like Liz Cheney and other things, when I realize that I'm on the same side of an issue as Tucker Carlson, we are living in the crazy times.
Yeah, crazy is certainly one way to put it. I'm trying to see if I have it here. I do not have Mr. Carlson's quote, but yeah, I agree with him too. What he is saying is when the government controls what you think and what you can say, then we are truly lost. And so that's where we find ourselves today. And that's the long answer to, how you doing, Joe?
That's I think that Tony's got a new one. He puts up on YouTube. What's the state of the dumpster fire today? That's my new how you doing. That's a good candidate for it, perhaps. He also says, my wife asked last night, so when do we go? You look back in history and wonder why people didn't get out. Are we there now? I honestly didn't know the answer. And I mean, again, I'm not trying to be flippant about it. I love my country. It's worth fighting for. But yeah, my passport's up to date.
And my answer to Tony and to you and to anyone else is we need people of good conscience who are patriotic Americans who believe in this country's first principles, like, equal justice under the law. Yeah. We need to stay and we need to turn things around. We've been in dark times before. We're in a dark time now, and America will find a way.
Back with more with Joe Zepecki and a few final notes and news from Lake Wissota right after this on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. Parker, let's play the audio from Derrick Van Orden again, if you've got that at your fingertips.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Have fun with this, Joe.
Have you? Oh, yeah, Joe, you're only going to hear a snippet of it, but go to the WEAU website, and I give them credit. They tried to, they had an interview with Derrick Van Orden, and so you really get to see the man. But at least they tried to nail him down. So we're going to start with that. But you should look at the full story, and maybe even they put up on Facebook. They put an excerpt from the interview where Derrick Van Orden just talks over Bob Gallagher, won't let him ask the question. Typical Ron Johnson, JD Vance kind of stuff. But anyway, we'll start with that, and then we will find a way to end on a lighter note.
Yeah,
we will. Damn it.
Okay, you're more optimistic than I am.
I don't know.
"30 seconds."
Brewers, Angels, game 3 of the series. Pregame begins at 6:05 this evening on several Civic Media radio stations. Up North News is part of Courier Newsroom, a national pro-democracy news network filled with podcasts and newsletters like the one from Mark Jacob. We'll talk to him tomorrow about his latest newsletter, Media Timidity, from some cowardly journalists after the Charlie Kirk murder. You can read more at stopthepresses.news or couriernewsroom.com. Joe Zepecki continues with us now. And if you missed it earlier, we're going to play back just a snippet of audio as WEAU 13 News in Eau Claire actually reached out to Derrick Van Orden about his threats to defund the city of Eau Claire, one of the largest cities in his district. And Derrick Van Orden was his usual jerk self and hiding behind the federal code that defines domestic terrorism, but without actually saying how. Here's him being asked about all the tweets, and he's been threatening to get all these people fired for their reactions to the Charlie Kirk murder. And he equates their reactions to domestic terrorism in a very cavalier and condescending way. Give a listen.
We asked the congressman about these posts, saying they don't seem to be calling for violence. Here's what he said.
I'm going to say this one more time. If you look up the U.S. code and read it, it is crystal clear that what they are saying falls under this U.S. statute. So it's a little frustrating when I have clearly intelligent people like yourself who can read that you don't do your homework before you conduct this interview.
So again, the word you're looking for is jerk. and he said, oh, it's crystal clear if you read the statute. You look at the statute, it's about domestic terrorism and inciting violence, and criticizing Charlie Kirk or even just putting up his own words doesn't come anywhere near that. But it's nice of him to say that, clearly intelligent people who can read don't do their homework, Joe.
I wonder if he's ever read a Supreme Court opinion.
No.
In full.
No, I would bet not.
Because hate speech is not treated differently than free speech or popular speech. And the Supreme Court has routinely upheld that. You cannot incite people to violence. You cannot call for people to be harmed. And saying, I disagree with this thing that Charlie Kirk said, and then putting it out there, is not hate speech. It is protected free speech in this country. And the fact that Derrick Van Orden does not like it or does not agree with that sentiment does not make it unlawful. And thank goodness he is but a mere member of Congress and not at the head of the executive branch like Donald Trump is. But what we are seeing is it kind of doesn't matter. It's a distinction without a difference, because this executive branch has overstepped and is now trying to police speech in this country. And that is deeply problematic.
Oh, yeah. It's policing speech. It's the thought police, however you want to frame it. I would recommend to folks to go over to the weau.com website. The headline is Congressman Derrick Van Orden discusses bill surrounding political violence. You can hear the full report. But to their great credit, at the bottom of the story, they also put the entire 18-minute raw interview. And I've seen excerpts of that raw interview where Derrick Van Orden just talks over the reporters. There are two reporters talking to him, and he just talks over them rather than waiting to hear the question and answering the question, because he's so much smarter than the reporters and just feels the need to talk over them. And I give Channel 13 a lot of credit, because after a lot of local media in the 3rd District have not really given him critical coverage, but proposing this bill that essentially, counts all anti-Charlie Kirk speech as domestic terrorism, I'm glad they jumped right on this and tried to actually show who Derrick Van Orden really is. We are finally getting more of that view out to his constituents than previously.
Yeah. I am going to botch who made this joke, but I do think it's important to remember that it's okay to joke. And someone on one of the social media platforms yesterday said, thank God Rodney Dangerfield and Don Rickles aren't around anymore, because we would all be really, really sad to see them locked up and imprisoned.
Yeah. I mean, again, heaven forbid. And it's going to be an expensive lesson for Van Orden and others as anything like this is challenged. There are going to be, right now, we're only hearing about the firings, the threats, the cancellations. They will eventually be followed by the lawsuits. And it's going to be long and drawn out and very expensive to taxpayers. And I do still feel like it's going to cost them a lot next year in the midterms, as otherwise moderate or even lean right voters go, this is not really a group of people I want to keep in power.
This is not what the American people voted for. They were concerned about high prices. They were concerned about an economy that isn't working for folks. And rather than focus on making people's lives better and addressing that, you instead have a MAGA majority Congress that has abdicated its constitutional responsibilities to be a check and balance. You have an executive branch that has overreached into nonsense like attacks on the First Amendment, and voters are seeing that. And it is not to the political benefit of Republicans. They can still get smart. They can figure this out, but I'm not holding my breath.
No. So we'll, of course, be following this on all of the civic media shows until or unless, the FCC wants to come down in some other way, shape, or form. But in the meantime, we'll keep doing our talk shows. We'll keep doing our sports. We've got the Brewers who are playing again tonight. And Joe, we're now in the season of trepidation for me, because we already know things are going well. So now as you're waiting for that injury, like the Angels pitcher yesterday, who got drilled on his pitching arm by a 107-mile-an-hour hit. I'm living in fear now for the final 2 weeks of the season.
We need to be able to find joy in all the places. Don't pre-grieve.
Thank
the
you.
Brewers.
Thank you. I so needed to hear that. And you know what? That applies to a lot of things. Don't pre-grieve. I like it. Joe Zepecki, thank you as always. I appreciate it so much.
Talk to you next week.
All right. Again, tomorrow we'll have our usual week in review panel. We'll have former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel and journalists Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze. We'll have Kia Vakil from Courier Newsroom, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, and Mike Clemens giving us sports. I'm Pat Kreitlow, founding editor of Up North News. Enjoy your Thursday. See you bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. here up north.